This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to Ambion Phinda Private Game Reserve. This morning we are looking for that cheetah with that tiny little cub, but in the meantime we've stopped at one of our more beautiful watering holes. As you can see, there's a large amount of bird activity here this morning, lots of hippo, even a few impala and nyala around here. So we would like to welcome you this morning to your very own digital safari, live from the African bush. It's a beautiful morning here. We've got not a cloud that I can see in the sky. And morning drives are always my favorite because as you wake up in search of animals, you see a lot of the animals waking up around with you. You know, a lot of birds calling. Very peaceful morning. So my name is Kim, and behind the camera we have Owen, and we will be with you this morning. Now, if you have any questions, please do remember it is actually a live safari. So you're welcome to send your questions to wildearth.tv, and you can hashtag Explorer, /Explorer, or you can hashtag us WildEarth on Instagram, or if you have any questions and you're younger than 18, you're welcome to send your questions to kidsquestions.wildearth.tv. It is an absolutely beautiful, peaceful morning. We've got a lot of bird activity. So if we start looking from the very far left, there's that beautiful white bird with a long yellow bill, a little bit of red above on its face, and that's a yellow-billed stork. If you look carefully, there's a bit of a pinkish hue going on, and that's because it's currently in its breeding plumage. And just behind it to the left, there's that bird with the very long red legs, black on the back, a white body. That is a black-winged stilt. And just in front of the black-winged stilt, we've got a three-banded plover that's currently washing itself. You can see it's actually dipping its head down into the water and giving itself a little bath this morning. And we go all the way off to the right. You can see that there's a grey heron that's busy using one of the hippo as a bit of a surfboard. I often do this because there's a great way to catch fish as the hippo disturb the fish. It'll try and take advantage of that and catch a fish for itself. So we're going to keep going into that open area and see if we can find any signs of these cheetah this morning. But in the meantime, let's see what Lauren has for you.
If I was a grey heron, I would absolutely use a hippo as a surfboard, without a doubt. Good morning, everyone. We are sitting here on quarantine, and we have a small herd of zebra, a dazzle of zebra. My name is Lauren. I do have Simon on camera with me today, and we've just stopped to admire the zebra. The weather, wow, patches of blue sky, cloud, drizzle, another confusing day weather-wise. But I do hope the rain stays off. We got a lot of rain last night, which is good. The ground is wet. Everything has been nourished. But I would like to stay dry this morning, I think. Now, it's not often we see zebra on Djuma. We do see them, of course, but it's really not often. It tends to come in waves. And because they're such unselective bulk feeders, they're not specific in their food choice. It's sort of quantity over quality for zebras. They just eat, bulk. Not only does it mean they produce large quantities of gas, it does mean that they need to drink a lot of water because they've got a lot of fibre in those tummies and they need a lot of water to facilitate digestion. So they're not territorial, but they must drink daily. So their movements are restricted to water points, and therefore you'll never really find zebras more than 10 kilometres away from water. And of course, we're on quarantine right now, so we're very close to Gowrie Dam. So when they move, their patterns are to go to water points, to go to water points. And that's why we don't always see them on Juma. They don't stay in the same area. They're highly mobile, but they're highly water dependent. It's lovely to see them. They stand out like a sore thumb in the bush. They really don't blend in. Of course, their stripes have a purpose, but to us, to our vision, to our eyesight, they really do stand out with those black and white stripes. I'm blocking the path for another vehicle. Oh dear. You can only see 4 of them. It's a small herd. And of course, they practice the harem structure, social structure. 1 male, lots of females. You will see some bachelor herds, so with younger males that haven't quite figured out what to do. But this is a particularly small herd. Walking right past Mbeta House. Okay, so we are going to head to the hyena den to start with, just to see if we can catch any activity with June. But for now, we're going to send you down to Tswalu to say good morning to Deirdre.
Good morning from Tswalu. So we have had a little bit of rain last night, and we are sitting at 23 degrees, which is about 73 Fahrenheit. Slight little breeze, but otherwise look at those morning skies. Really, really beautiful. We've had some nice colours already, and I'm sure it's set to be a beautiful, beautiful day. That's where all those rain clouds were last night. That's where it was raining predominantly, and where the sort of sun was shining on the mountain. But I still haven't introduced myself. And our plan this morning is to head, as promised, to that bat-eared fox den and cross our fingers.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to And Beyond Ngala. We are driving around this area, and we came across this vulture. We thought we might just quickly have a look to see what it was about, but it looks like it was just roosting here last night, and there doesn't seem to be anything that is of interest to us below it, at least. So I think it's just waiting for the thermals to rise, and then eventually it will get going for the morning. My name is Eric, and behind camera is BK. And this morning, I will show you on a map what our plan is I thought it would be a really good idea for us to head down into the western part of the reserve and see if we can maybe try and find some wild dogs. And so we have left here from Ngala Tented Camp, and we have driven up along the river, and we're currently over here looking at this vulture, and then we're going to pretty much cut straight across the reserve to this area here, where there has been some wild dog activity in the last couple of weeks. So if we're lucky, we might see them. Apparently the last tracks that they had last night were heading in this direction within this big area, and there's nice big open plains over there where there's lots of impalas and lots of wildebeest, and with them having calves at this time of year, I think it will be a really good opportunity for us to maybe try and see if we can get there as early as we can this morning and try and see if we can get some wild dogs on the move before it gets too hot. The really nice thing is, again, I keep saying it and I don't want to jinx it, it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day, and so spending time around the water holes as well as those big open clearings looking for those wild dogs hunting and moving through, causing chaos like they usually do, I think will be a really good plan. I've got a good feeling about this morning, BK does too, and so I hope that we get lucky this morning. It's always good to get into an area of where those wild dogs were last seen as early as possible, because they also feel the heat quite a lot, and so they'll also just, if it's too hot for the day, they will find a spot to rest up and lie down in, and so if we want that action to try and follow them and see if we can see what they hunt, we need to get there as early as we possibly can. It is such an awesome feeling to wake up and see blue sky. And so whilst we try and get to the area of those wild dogs as quickly as we can, Mike is waiting to say good morning in Pridelands.
Hello everyone. We also have blue sky here as well as some elephant action. They are enjoying this nice sunny morning weather as well, snacking on all the dew-laden grass and shrubs underneath these beautiful marula trees. Hi everyone, my name is Mike, and you're joining us at Eco Training's Pridelands Conservancy with Seb behind the camera. There's the thumb, what we all know so well. And we're enjoying this. Oh, the birds are also singing bright and clear this morning. There's a little bit of clouds, but it doesn't look like there's going to be bad weather. It looks like it's going to be great for us today. We're enjoying these elephants not so far from Leopard Dam. It looks like they maybe want to head down towards Leopard Dam. There's two of them here. There's another elephant just over to the left who's walking down towards the hillside. Both young males, probably more in the area. They're often in groups of, several individuals. We've seen a number of herds as well this morning. Well, not this morning. We saw some in the distance. But we've been hearing elephants during the early morning, so I'm sure there's more around. The plan this morning, though, is to try and head over to where that young male lion was yesterday, to see if that lion is anywhere, has moved, has maybe gone hunting, maybe joined up with his brother, who we suspect might still be around, the one with the limp. Perhaps elephants, being that there were so many of them around the Leopard Dam yesterday, maybe the elephants came and moved the lion away, which is also quite possible. Very nice and peaceful this morning. Perfect morning actually for a safari. After a few days of cloudy, windy, colder weather, when the sun comes out like this, often you'll find it changes animals' behavior quite drastically, which is great. And Swainson's spurfowl calling in the background. And some red-billed buffalo weavers as well calling right above us. You can see that elephant feeding there on the buffalo grass. It's not just for buffaloes. It's one of the most nutritious of all the grasses. Whilst it's growing like this, particularly good. And that elephant's got a broken tusk, probably from digging around for roots and tubes during the dry winter weather. They need to get moisture somehow, so they'll often debark the trees to chew on the sugary sap that's in the bark. Sometimes dig up the roots, pushing trees over to get to those moisture-filled roots. Sometimes they damage their tusks. It's okay, it'll keep growing, and over time that end will get sharpened again. It will always be just a little bit shorter than his left tusk there. Oh, bless you. Bit of a sneeze there. Oh, Okay, well, it looks like that patch of grass has outlived its usefulness as he flaps his ears and moves away from us, trying to keep cool on this warm morning. He's got a big body, he's catching a lot of sunlight, and I can already feel that it's getting warm, much warmer than it was yesterday. So I'm sure at some point they're going to head down to the dam. It'll be a good day to hang out at the waterholes.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
My name is TAYLA MCCURDY and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Well, sadly, no luck at the hyena den today. It was not active. We've been very lucky the past few days. I cannot complain. So what that suggests to me is that the adults are busy. The adults are probably with some predator or off hunting. So now we're just going to scratch around and see what else we can see for the morning. Pick up on tracks, but it's very, very difficult when the ground is wet like this. Normally when the ground is wet, the predator's tracks, or any tracks really, not soggy wet, it doesn't stay. It's very difficult to pick up on, but we will try our best to see what we can find for this morning. The Talamati Pride killed a giraffe last night, but it's up in Buffelshoek, and our Buffelshoek signal is down, I'm afraid, so I'm not entirely sure we're going to be able to go there. But we'll try and scratch around Djuma. Fiona, only one hyena clan in Djuma, the Djuma clan. They do have their territory and their home ranges. So really, the Djuma clan is Djuma. Djuma's not big. It's not a big reserve. And there are neighboring clans. Now, I'm only really familiar with the Elephant Plains clan, which is in the west. So we often see members that we don't recognize, especially up in Buffelshoek. We see a lot of hyenas that we really, really don't recognize at all. And I wonder if they come in from the Manguleti side or possibly even the Kruger side. They travel great distances, and they're not like leopards that will patrol and patrol and patrol their territory. Is very different for hyenas. So I think there's a lot more clans that we're just not familiar with because we don't have access to them and we don't see them. But the sort of two that we're most familiar with, it's the Djuma clan and in the Elephant Plains clans.
eastern side of the dam itself, on the road.
Copy, copy. Thanks, Rex, and I'll make my way there. They found a hyena. We shall go round and see where it was. We're a little bit far, but we'll do a U-turn and go and see which hyena is wallowing in the mud. They love to jump in mud puddles. Okay, I'm going to do a U-turn when I can find an area to do so, to go and see which hyena that is. We're going to send you guys back down to Tswalu.
Morning. We're back again, but we have to share this sunrise with you. It was our intention a few minutes ago, and we were also going to tell you that we were heading to the bat-eared fox den this morning, but just look at that. We have to share that. So thank you for joining us this morning. And don't forget to ask all your questions on #WildEarth and put @FC in front of the question. But it promises to be a beautiful day. It's just nice to sit quietly for a second, just to hear all those morning sounds. Question from Sonia, what is my favorite bird call? Well, I've got one that's half got my name, so I have to say the DEIRDRE's cuckoo, because it goes DEIRDRE's. So at many a lodge that became my nickname in the summer season, so I'd have to say that one. Their calls can get quite vigorous in the summer season, that they don't keep quiet, but maybe that's the same as me. I don't keep quiet. Maybe that's why they meant to call me the DEIRDRE's cuckoo. But there are so many birds. I love birds, but there are so many beautiful, brightly coloured birds, and everywhere you go, lots of different ones. But I'd have to say the DEIRDRE's cuckoo, because it's sort of half got my name in it. Every cloud has a golden lining. We can't call it a silver lining, we'll call it a golden lining this morning. Agree with you. It's just sort of a nice fresh start to the day. So we kind of get a blank canvas this morning because it's rained overnight. I don't know how much it rained, but it was a fair amount. So we get nice, fresh, clean roads, nice and easy to track. It gives us a really, really nice start to the day. So we definitely going to start heading on to that bat-eared fox den. We've still got a ways to drive, and we don't want to get there too late when it starts getting too hot. Total contrast in the clouds compared to yesterday, but beautiful nonetheless. That's awesome. I'm definitely going to send you across to that. They've got some swimming elephants at Pridelands.
So we got a bit of a flat tire, so we decided to come back to camp, and it worked out perfectly, because now we've also got, out in Dover Dam next to our camp, a couple of elephant bulls having a bit of a swim. Early morning swim, very healthy. It's good to get the muscles moving and working. Invigorates. It's nice cool water. These both seem like elephant bulls, young ones. It's quite normal for them to be alone like this. Usually if it was a female, there'd be a whole herd with youngsters and everything. But the light is catching them so nicely. It's almost bouncing off the water and shining straight up onto them. It's really nice. We saw a couple of other elephants earlier. They were heading to a different dam. And I suspect there are more on the way here. So there are a few more just up the road. Must be especially good in the water. Oh, there's more just up there on the wall. How about that? It's almost like I predicted it. There's another elephant just to the right there who's about to make its way down to the waterhole. Another male elephant, 2 of them in fact. How about that? So things are about to get real busy in the waterhole. As I said, it is a bit of a warmer day today and it's going to be much hotter than it was yesterday and the day before. In fact, hotter than it's been for a while. So I think there'll be lots of animals that come to enjoy the water. We might well be on the pathway of where these elephants come down, so it could get interesting for us. Oh. Does that elephant have a short trunk? Yes, it is. I think it does. No, it doesn't. I was imagining things. There's one elephant that has a bit of a short trunk. It's not this one. Oh, there you go. Practice makes perfect after all. Very important to strengthen those back legs, climbing on top of each other like this without hurting each other. The one elephant on the left is much larger than the one on the right. Leo, thank you. It is a lovely morning. I feel like every morning in any game reserve anywhere in Africa must be a lovely morning. I mean, how can it not be when you're surrounded by nature? But it's especially lovely, Leo, when we've got elephants swimming. And on such a nice, calm and bright day. What more could you wish for, honestly? Oh, maybe like a croissant. Got coffee. Ooh, what is that? Is that an Egyptian goose or is that a noble duck coming in? Oh, I think it's an Egyptian goose. There's an Egyptian goose that just flew over and all the other geese got up in quite a state. They all were very unhappy about that. Egyptian geese are very territorial. And so they'll fiercely defend this waterhole from any other water birds, generally speaking, which is quite a problem. I mean, it's natural, but it's quite a problem because they'll chase away other birds, which makes this play. There they go. They're about to do a little bit of a circuit of the area, whilst the elephants ignore everything around them. Why should they need to pay attention to something as small as a goose? Oh. Very calm in the waterhole. Actually, there was a hippo here not long ago. Sometimes that causes a bit of concern for the elephants. Katie, it's awesome watching them swim. It's so, what I especially like about it is that they're really magic, massive, and majestic. All the M's. And when they're in the water, they just turn into these doofuses. Look at this little doofus. Just being real silly. I think this is how we should all act. We should play and have fun as if no one's watching. Right? Who cares what other people think? It doesn't matter how majestic you are, you can always be silly. And very tactile. Elephants are always touching each other. Those trunks, although are very powerful and they've got fairly thick skin, they're very sensitive as well. So that everything they touch, they can feel the textures and they can smell and they can taste. It's just really good for their social bonding as well. Now, all 4 of them now in the water. See, look at that. Really pushing each other, practicing, playing, not hurting each other at all. Ooh, they can very easily hurt each other. Oh, look at those soft brown eyes catching the light. Something about looking at an elephant's eyes. Such a massive creature, and then when you see its eyes, they're so soft and brown. they look like the most gentle eyes.
That's when they're angry.
Yeah, when they get angry, though, you can tell because their eyes get really wide and you see the white in their eyes and you just know, oh my goodness, I'm not in a great place. If it happens to you when you're on a vehicle, at least, you know, you can move away quite quickly, but if you're on foot, it's another story. It gets quite nerve-wracking. I've been in a few situations, actually, where elephants were... Actually, yesterday, was it yesterday with the elephants, the herd? They were acting very strange and a little bit uncomfortable.
Yesterday morning?
Yeah, yesterday morning, Seb and I were driving past a herd. Actually, the herd with the elephant called Susan. And Susan's always very grumpy. Well, not really grumpy, but she always comes up to us. And we just try and keep our distance from her. But they all started trumpeting and getting together and really wondered what was the story. Although later on, some students told us there was an elephant in must, a bull elephant in must. So that had them all acting very sort of semi-aggressive, trying to protect themselves from this elephant bull's attentions. So we've had a few moments when elephants were in must and I was on foot. Mostly alone, so luckily didn't have any guests or students that I had to also pay attention to. Purely on my own. And then it's easy because you can make the decisions really quickly and move out the way or go behind some rocks or a tree. Oh, listen to the sounds, hey? Of those elephants' tusks smacking into each other as they joust. One moment I remember, not long ago, I was up in the northern part of Kruger, and there are a lot of elephants there, and because it's so close to the border of Zimbabwe and Mozambique, the elephants get persecuted and poached in those countries or those areas quite a lot. Well, in the old days for the ivory, these days not so much. Poaching is still a problem. And so they're a little bit more nervous and aggressive. And we were walking through quite a thick area, just me and one of our apprentice trails guides. And I stopped to look at a track, and neither of us heard this elephant come round from the other side of a big group of bushes, and it was literally 7 or 8 meters away from us, and that's very close when you're on foot with an elephant, especially a bull. And he was not in must, though, at least, and he looked just as surprised as we were to see us. And yeah, luckily in that situation the elephant just stood there and we stood there, and then eventually we backed off and he also just turned and went the other way. Very amicable. It's not always so easy, though. Oh, bit of something in your eye there, another little scratch. I love how they can use the trunk to breathe whilst their whole body is underwater. It's like having a snorkel permanently attached to your face. Oh. The other elephant's having a big tantrum. I think maybe the one on the left got upset. Michelle, crocodiles do bother them sometimes. Not these big elephants, and certainly not when they're playing like this. It's far too dangerous for a crocodile. I mean, an elephant could easily crush them and stab them with the tusks. You see what this elephant's doing, pushing like that. If it was a crocodile, it would be in serious trouble. But young elephants sometimes get bitten. And then I've even seen a large elephant get its trunk caught by a crocodile. But in that instance, the elephant just whipped its head back and the croc went flying, like spinning into the air. It was actually ridiculous. I don't know what the crocodile was thinking. Maybe inexperienced, didn't really understand what it was doing. But yeah, the crocodile came off second best in most of these circumstances. Hippos also might cause problems for elephants, especially younger, smaller elephants. Hippos are very territorial, so a small waterhole like this, if the elephants were coming in there, the hippos might not be super happy about it. I personally don't think there's any crocodiles in this waterhole, so I'm not going to test that theory by going for a swim. There was a famous guide, I think he now works in Namibia, or at least worked in Namibia for a long time. He had his arm bitten off by a crocodile in a waterhole just like this, when he did not think that there were any crocodiles in the water. Went for a bit of a swim and then finished the swim minus one arm, which is not super great. I'd like to avoid that. It was a long time ago though. It was not during my time. It was maybe 20 years ago that this happened. I always give my advice to the students: don't swim anywhere in the low veld, in a waterhole that you can't see very clearly. Even in a waterhole that you can see clearly, if there's lots of overhanging vegetation, don't go and swim there, because it's perfect for crocodiles. Perfect for crocodiles. Another story of a guide that I knew who was watching a bunch of people swimming in a river, in like a little bit of a side pool on the river. And, he said, guys, it's not safe. There's crocodiles in this river. And they said, no, we've been swimming here for years and years, and we come here all the time, and it's 100% safe. And the water was fairly clear, maybe a little bit green, but, quite clear. Anyway, so this person said, okay, that's fine. If you say it's safe, then let me go for it. He dived into the water, did like a pencil dive, when your feet go first, and his feet touched the bottom, and it was not the bottom. It was a crocodile. And this crocodile just wanted to be left alone. And when I think it was quite a small crocodile, and it bit him on the leg, because now he wasn't being left alone. And of course, even a small crocodile, if it decides to nibble on you, you'll be in a bit of concern. And so yes, this person had to have stitches. It was quite horrendous, and came to the surface and said, "There's a croc in here." And all the people said, "Ha, ha, 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 funny, funny." And then, of course, they saw all the blood. And then they knew, oh, danger. And they all got out. Luckily, he got stitches and he was all fine after that. But just goes to show, don't take chances in any water holes in the low veld, or in fact in southern Africa in general. I'd just rather avoid it. You can see some of our students in the background there, having a bit of a game drive. Luckily to also see these elephants in the water holes. Well, whilst we enjoy this rather noisy moment, let's send you over to Andrew with a silent one.
Welcome back. So we have so far been unsuccessful in looking for that cheetah. We've looked all over the open areas, and again this morning seems like she's disappeared for now. while we look, we stopped at this beautiful watering hole and we came across a rhino. You can see by the side of its body that it's been lying right in the mud. It was actually still fast asleep when we came, just lying on the outskirts of this watering hole. And we saw a whole lot of zebra starting to come down, and even some giraffe in the distance slowly making their way here. It's a beautiful time to be spending a lot of time at watering holes, because we haven't had our big December rains yet. We've had a little bit of drizzle. As you can see, it's really nice and green around here. So enough water to keep our trees and grasses healthy, but not enough to fill up our watering holes, which means that there's a lot of activity around the watering holes because all the animals congregate there to be able to drink for the day. Some gorgeous light hitting the scene. You can see that one zebra is actually, looks like it's grooming the other one, which is quite interesting. You see, there's a few. More gave it a bit of a nip. Now, I've never known a zebra to be aloe groomers. Those are more like impala will be aloe groomers, and even inyala. I think generally zebra have their own methods of keeping themselves quite clean. As you can see while we're watching them, you can see them wagging those tails, flicking those tails. Every now and then their skin sort of shudders. They can twitch their skin. Look at that. I think that little one wants to play a little bit with its mother. So we're going to sit here for a little while and see what else comes down to drink. But in the meantime, Tswalu seems to have found a smaller animal that's doing something quite interesting at the moment, so we're going to send you over there.
We've got a kill! We didn't see it happen, but we just came over the dune, and that's what's the leftover bits of a Damara mole rat. There you can see the little petal-shaped feet sticking out of his mouth. This little jackal has been munching away. Bigger than both Davy and I thought, actually, for the mole rat. But the other day I said, I did laugh at myself, I said, they come out in the early morning at dusk, and obviously that's not the right way. They come out in the early morning at dawn outside of their burrows, and obviously this one was not fast enough to get back down the hole. Jackals will be able to dig them up if they wanted to, so we don't know what the situation was here, but we are minus one mole rat in the population, and plus one nice little fed jackal. He's quite fortunate that there's no one else around, so he doesn't have to squabble or fight for it. It's all his. Just real pot luck. He came over the dune and there he was. It's a nice black-backed jackal. He's pretty much finished it, so I don't think there's much left. What was interesting for us, he actually pulled out the bits that he didn't want. So we saw the intestine and the sort of stomach get pulled out and sort of tossed aside. Maybe he'll go back for that later, but he was definitely interested more in the sort of meaty parts of the mole rat. He's looking a bit scruffy. He definitely looks a bit scruffy. Well, maybe the summer season there'll be a lot more food abundant, and he'll look a little bit less scruffy. I have heard some others been calling a little bit this morning, so they are all awake. I don't know if he hears something. He keeps looking. Well, maybe we're going to see him go for another one. There's quite a big colony here that... I'd also be licking my lips if I just had a mole rat for breakfast. Dr. Rocky Balboa says it kind of looks like a coyote. They pretty much are in the same kind of family across the world, but they don't overlap. He's popping out there the other side. With a nice full tummy like that, he might just find a place to lie down and go to sleep. The typical jackal trot. One little bush. Let me try. I'm going to roll forward. Oh, no, I'm not going to roll. Oh, you got him, okay. Oh, there he goes. So he's going out to the next one. Oh. So as he trots off, we're going to send you back to that little rhino in Phinda.
As you can see, our rhino has decided to go back to have a bit of a snooze. This is exactly how we found him earlier. And what's quite precious to see, look at how much mud is caked all along the side of him. You can imagine, you can actually see where he's gone on mud wallow just in front. You know, there's the definite sort of circular gap in the mud, where the mud has been pushed off to the one side. You can see where he would have pushed it back, rolling around on each side. And he's got it so much all over his body, and even over his eye, you can see there's a thick patch of mud there. And I've got very limited eyesight, very poor eyesight, so he doesn't even seem too bothered by it. It's even more compromised by all this mud that's around his eye. He's quite happy to rely on his hearing and sense of smell. And what's beautiful also is now he's gone and lay in the sand, so now he's got this two-toned sort of muddy color. Really precious. Some red-breasted swallows that flew in front there. Rhinos are generally quite late risers in the morning. You know, especially on the colder mornings, you'll often find them hidden behind a bush or something. And as all the other animals are already awake, as you just saw, you know, a jack was busy feeding and already made a kill this morning. The rhinos tend to be still sleeping. And it's just because they don't have to have too much to do. You know, he doesn't have to go and hunt. He's got quite a lot of grass around him. Quite happy to feed in this area. There's quite an abundance of grass at the moment with, you know, all the drizzle rain that we've been having. So there's some fresh, luscious grass, and he's got a whole lot of water here. So he's in no rush to do anything this morning. Quite happy to just sit and soak up the sun and warm himself up a little bit. I don't know if you saw the blacksmith lapwing that just chased at those red-breasted swallows. Lazy boy rhinos will live up to 40 years. They've got quite a long lifespan in terms of, you know, animals. The longest lifespan is an elephant, which can live anywhere to 60 to 70 years. So our rhinos can live up to 40, sometimes 50 years old. Just spotted a crocodile on the left there. You look towards the yellow-billed stork. You just see that crocodile poking its head up. Just goes to show you can never take for granted that there's not a crocodile in a watering hole. They can hold their breath for about an hour. So never take for granted that just because you haven't seen one for a while doesn't mean that they're not there. And the entire time we've been sitting here, we haven't seen this crocodile emerge. It seems to be heading straight to that yellow-billed stork, but it's very unlikely it would be able to catch something like a yellow-billed stork right now. There's quite a few fish actually jumping around it. Oh, look, it's opening its mouth. I think it actually caught a fish there. So we're going to sit here for a little bit longer, just see what comes what else comes down to drink. But in the meantime, we're going to send you over to Lauren, who's found some elephants.
I've just been sitting here listening to the dawn chorus and how silent these elephants are. All we can hear is them pulling up the grass. But these elephants will be constantly communicating. It's just not verbal. Because humans are highly verbal species, we assume... Oh, look at that young one. Huh? We assume that because animals are not being vocal, that they're not communicating. But non-verbal communication can come in different ways, from visual, audio, tactile and chemical. The mother of this little one will be in constant communication with it, I can assure you. The mother will not let anything happen to this little one or let it walk too far. There's another tiny little one over there, Simon. Now, animals might not be able to speak and they haven't mastered advanced language techniques, but they definitely communicate. And if you think about it, whales sing. We know that. The whales in the ocean, they sing a song that we can't understand, and they have different dialects. So whales in different parts of the world will not understand one another. Wolves howl. I spent some time with the Ethiopian wolf, and it howls. Hello, little one. Birds tweet and chirp like we can hear right now. Frogs, they'll croak. And we can't understand what they're saying, but they're most definitely communicating, and that's vocally. What about when it's non-vocal or non-verbal? That's the correct term. Let me just reposition, Simon. I think I'm going to reverse. Bear with me. They're heading this way. We're right next to Gwen's den. One of the hyena dens has completely collapsed. I think Tristan found it. The tree is just fallen over, and I don't think that den will ever be used again by anything. Okay. Just going to pull up here. Is it okay, Simon? So for humans, we don't really rely on being quiet. We don't have to be quiet by being loud as we are. There's no threats. We don't have to rely on being quiet to acquire food. We don't hunt ourselves anymore. We just go to the supermarket and we just buy food. But humans are still communicating every single day without being aware of it non-verbally. Hand gestures, eye gazes, body postures, our clothing, facial expressions, so many other things. We are transmitting our feelings, our emotions, our directions, our orders, not all positive, not all negative. So if we are doing that without being aware of it, can you imagine what other organisms out here are doing? And when it comes to elephants, they have such a well-developed system of communication that we can only begin to understand. There's no way a herd, a social herd like this, can survive without having some means of communicating within the herd, to stay together, to understand, to be scolded, to learn. Otherwise, it would just be pandemonium. There would be tantrums, there would be elephants that just go off and leave. They would get separated and never be able to sort of find one another. So at one end of the elephant spectrum, you've got body rubbing. It's very apparent. You see them rubbing their bodies together, wrapping their trunks around one another. They're communicating. It's tactile and it's obvious to humans because we're also very tactile. And at the total other end of that spectrum, you've got elephants that are responding to each other from 10 kilometers away. They're also conveying information to one another without being verbal about their sexual condition, their hormone level, their identity, their emotional state. Not the Brownian motion, and they've got special mechanical receptors that are picking up on that in their trunk and the soles of their feet. They're also listening to a range of frequencies that we can't even begin to understand. So they're being very tactile. They're also using lots of chemicals. I think we need to move again, Simon. They're also listening to frequencies, acoustics that we cannot even begin to understand. Okay, I'm going to try and catch up with my feeding herd, but it looks like Mike's herd are swimming.
Most of the elephants have now moved off. It's just this one young bull who's left enjoying the dam without the bigger elephants causing him all sorts of concern. But I'm almost certain that there'll be lots of elephants that come and go throughout the day, as well as maybe the buffalo herd that we saw yesterday. Looks like he's actually going to start moving in the direction that the other elephants went. So though he's enjoying it, he doesn't want to be by himself for too long. He's going to go and move directly into our camp like the other elephants are doing currently. For now it's okay. Not too many students around now. Most have gone home for the Christmas break. A few of them finishing off some last minute stuff. So the camp is quite quiet anyway. Beverly, I don't think the water does stay out of their ears, to be honest. Oh, there's a Natal spurfowl making a heck of a racket right next to us. I don't think, Beverly, the water does stay out of their ears, to be honest. It's like our ears. When we go into the water, water goes in there and it sometimes gets uncomfortable. Same for elephants. Sometimes we see them after swimming. They'll be pushing their trunk into their ear and scratching around, maybe trying to empty the water out. I don't think it stays out at all. They're not like hippos or other aquatic animals which can actually close their ears or nostrils rather by pushing them down. Not at all. They are not aquatic animals at all, although they seem like it with the amount of time they spend in the water these days. Oh gosh, I'm pretty sure those elephants are busy digging up the water pipes from our camp, which cause us no ends of concern. We're going to have to go and have a look at that in a moment just to make sure. But in the meantime, we'll send you over to some lovely little bat-eared foxes at Tswalu.
I want to say Jumbo, but I think I'd rather say Dumbo. Look how big those ears are. So both parents are here at the den. The one ran away a little bit earlier, and then there's this one. So we just waiting it out patiently. I was saying to Davy, I'm not 100% sure if we've got this correct. We keep coming in the morning, and maybe we need to try an afternoon slot, because the bat-eared fox being nocturnal, maybe the pups will come out a little bit more in the afternoon. So we'll have to definitely try that, because there's no sign of pups coming out at this stage, but at least one of the adults is close to the den, so they're getting more and more used to us each time we come. They move off a lot less than they did in the very beginning. I don't know how they do that with their ears, but their ears would be made predominantly of cartilage, which is what gives them that ridge, and then just you can see the large satellite dishes. The clapper larks are doing their thing this morning. She's just laid down, so we probably just stand by a little bit, see if over time she relaxes and calls the pups out. But if by the next segment nothing, then we'll move on and see what else the Kalahari has to offer this morning. She's just sitting nicely in those eland beans. All we want to do is just see your pups. Can you please just bring them out? Please, please. Jane is saying little radar ears, and she loves these creatures. They are very, very pretty. We're very fortunate to have a very, very good population of bat-eared foxes, and they are widespread across Tswalu, but not often this comfortable with vehicles this close. They do tend to move away quite quickly, specifically at night time in their little family groups that are foraging. But because these ones have decided to den right on the edge of the road as you go past, regularly they're starting to realize that vehicles are not a threat. There's a little bird here, Davy, on this bush, on this little blackthorn. I don't know if you can... He's been sitting there for a little bit. He's very cute. He's called a scaly feathered finch. Please stay, please stay, please stay. Yes, perfect. So he's like... Well, that was perfect. That was a very, very brief view of a scaly feathered finch. He's landed on the one at the back there. Just one blackthorn backwards. There he is, a little red beak. I mean, he's got like a little moustache, and he's got these beautiful little patterns on the side under the wings that have little scales. So a scaly feathered finch. They're normally quite busy, that we don't actually get them still for this long, but he's chirping his little song this morning. In Afrikaans, he's called a baard mannetjie, and a baard is a beard, and a mannetjie is a little man, so he's a little bearded man. They'd make quite a little sort of messy grass nest, but a tiny, tiny little nest made up of grass hidden in these blackthorns. And then that would be the little warm place for them to sleep at night. So hopefully that's a new bird for some of you, the scaly feathered finch. So you can see there's two sort of entrances to this sort of den area. So we're on the one side, the den's in the middle between us, and then Mommy at the back. Mina Moo's asking the question, is it true that bat-eared foxes follow zebras? I can't say I've heard of that, so I'm not 100% sure. That'll be an interesting reference. But we do have an interesting relationship with two nocturnal animals in the Kalahari that's really sort of unwritten, is between a Cape fox and a polecat. And one of the guides actually saw it the other day for the first time, and I said, you know, you're really, really lucky to have seen that. But as far as bat-eared foxes and zebras, I'm not sure. The only thing that I could think of, which would be that the reason that bat-eared foxes would follow zebra is maybe because they're disturbing insects when they're walking, similar to what you would have a cattle egret following a herd of buffalo. That could be sort of the only thing I think of from that. So the little scaly feathered finch is back on his perch. Oh, no. Oh, he probably lives in that bush. He's just dropped down into the bush. The bat-eared fox has dropped its head too. It's decided she's going to have a morning snooze. I don't blame her. I feel like that some mornings. You've just woken up and all you want to do is press the snooze button. Plus, if she's got 3 youngsters in the den here, that's also quite tiring. Just such beautiful, beautiful sounds. Just a beautiful morning in the Kalahari. We'll sit here one more time and see if maybe something happens. Otherwise, we'll move on.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favourite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide, and most importantly the questions that you ask, give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. We've still been sitting at this watering hole, just seeing what comes down to drink. And as you can see, we've got some nyala that have joined us now. One in the front is a female. She's got that very red, and then there's two males coming up behind her. There's a few more that are actually going to join them just now. It's quite sweet as you see that younger male. If you have a look at his coat color, he's a little bit lighter than the fully grown male off to his left, and it's because they actually start off the same color as the females, that reddy brown, and about 10 to 14 months they start transitioning. Actually age him at already about 17 months, maybe a bit older. Beautiful to see them lined up in a row like that and drinking. You can see there's a very young nyala lamb. Tiny little lamb. It's about the same size as some of the impala lambs we've been seeing, so probably only just over a month old. And you can see how it's quite cleverly drinking, not from from a little puddle off to the side. Most likely an area where one of the rhinos have done a mud wallow and created a little side pool. Much safer for animals to drink from those areas, because as we saw, there is a crocodile in this watering hole, and certainly needs to be careful of where it goes into the water. I always find the nyala to be quite interestingly adapted. If you have a look at the bottom of their bodies, very, very hairy and shaggy, and especially those tails. I don't know if any of our viewers know why they've got such furry tails, because generally tails are used to swat away flies. You know, you'll see them long and slender with maybe a tuft of hair at the bottom. You can use them, a really nice fly swatter. I know the males will lift up their tail when they're doing a lateral display. You can see as it sort of waves its tail, it's got quite a bit of white underneath. It's also got that white line along the top of the back of that nyala. And they do a lateral display, which is kind of like a amongst the males, because if you have a look at those horns, you can imagine how much damage they could do if they would have to fight for dominance. So I think with the males it makes sense to have that really big fluffy tail, because it makes them look bigger, more impressive in that display. The females is quite an interesting one. Have a and then carry on. You can see that most animals are actually quite nervous around watering holes, because when predators start to strategize, they know that there's a lot of foot traffic coming through this area. So they lie in wait around these areas and see if something walks past them, and they take advantage of that. So we're going to send you over to Lauren, who's got some elephants that are being quite playful.
We're still with the same herd. They've changed their trajectory about 3 or 4 times. They've got 2 very, very young calves. They've got lots of youngsters, but 2 particularly young calves. And every time Mum stops, you see, I think this one's suckling Simon, you see that? Every time Mum stops moving, they take an opportunity to just latch on. It's very sweet. Must be hungry. And of course they suckle via mouth. They locate the mammary gland with their trunk, because of course that's their nose, that's their smelling organ. And then they latch on with their mouth, and that's how they suckle. But within their trunk, they've actually got 7 olfactory terminals. And each of these terminals are packed with millions, yes, millions of olfactory receptor cells. And they're said to be even better smellers, if you like, I don't know if that's the correct word, smellers, than bloodhounds. So their sense of smell is very, very powerful, and they react to smell. Their vision's not so good, and that's why they probably smell a predator in the area. When we see these reactions from elephant herds, it's most likely because they've picked up on a scent and they're not comfortable with it. They can also smell water about 12 miles away. 12 miles! That is absolutely incredible. That's how powerful their nostrils really are. And we don't wear perfumes or cologne in the bush. That's a #1 rule for many reasons. Particular so that we can smell our own, so that we can smell. But you also don't want animals that have such a powerful olfactory sense to smell that. That would definitely not be pleasant for their nostrils. Be far too chemical, synthetically chemical for them. That's why we try not to. We're smelly cats out here. Smelly cat, smelly cat. Yes, we are. We do shower, but that's it. I'm not sure if you can hear them, but they're just pulling out all of the grass. Levi, they're very young, very young. Oh, look, this one's reaching up to the marula tree. I would say the very smallest one here is just up, if not even under a month. Very, very young. Now, you can gauge by size. Normally, when they can still fit under Mum's tummy, up to a year, generally speaking. But when you look at an elephant this size, you can tell by their coordination, their shape, the way they're moving. These ones are very young. It's difficult to tell. Elephants are born at around 100 kilograms. They're already quite substantial compared to human babies. These ones are particularly young. And if you watch the behavior of the mothers, we can't see them right now, but the 2 mothers were keeping them very, very sheltered. surrounding them, really not letting these youngsters be on their own, be further away than a meter. What is this one doing? There's lots of youngsters in this herd, but the smallest one that I can see right now is extremely young. Oh, Jim, that's impossible to know. I could never answer that in a month of Sundays. Elephants are very mobile. They're not territorial in any way, shape, or form. They move, they follow their matriarch, and they move to suit their needs. They move for food and water. They never stop. They move through the night as well, so they're very, very mobile. And they travel great distances. They don't need to stay in the same place. They're not territorial. And once they've sort of finished grazing in an area, if you like, they'll just move on. So what we notice here in Djuma is like a wave. We have times where there's just elephant herds everywhere. I remember last Christmas, Steve and I, we could barely get from point A to B without bumping into elephants. There was almost too many elephants. It appeared that it was becoming quite unsustainable. There was lots of damage, lots of water loss. But they just eventually move on, and then we go through periods of not seeing elephants for a really, really long time. Excuse the power lines, we're on the southern boundary. So they come and go, they ebb and flow, and it would be impossible unless you track them and identify them, which they do in certain parts of Africa. And Amboseli is one of them where they have the longest standing elephant study. But other than that, it would be impossible to say how many herds there are. They can come up from the south, they can come down from the north, they can come in from the Kruger. But we can identify some herds. We know Floppy Ears herd, we know Fangs herd. There's some bulls that I recognise now just due to key features. But otherwise, could never tell. They're all crossing into Chitwa. Look at these youngsters having a little tussle over here, Simon. Nature Go, for me, a very long time. I believe that she was seen recently, though, possibly when I was on leave. But for me, it's been a very, very long time since I've seen Fang. But they'll move, they'll come back. Matriarchs, I was talking about this yesterday, they use their knowledge to bring... What are you two doing? To bring their herd to areas that they know will have guaranteed good pastures, good greenery, lush vegetation, even in the harshest of times. So they'll come to Djuma exactly when they need to come to Djuma. They will know where to go, where the water points are, where the most delicious water points are. They're very fussy drinkers, and they will know exactly where to go to get the most delicious, nutritious, and palatable of all the grasses. There's a little youngster there, just to the right of the power line. You can see their ears flapping. I would love to know the number of herds here, though. It's a question that I would love to have the answer to. Ashley from the USA. Yes, 100% correct. They have 6 sets of molars. They don't have canines or incisors or anything like that. Well, their tusks are obviously modified, so I slightly take that back. The tusks are elongated incisors, but let's forget that. The other teeth, the 6 sets, are all molars. And they come in at different stages in their life. It's like a conveyor belt. You'll find that we've got some over here as well. Got a nice big one feeding. I think this might be a bull. He was ripping off the bark of a tree to get to the cambium layer. which is the most nutritious part. But yes, it's like a conveyor belt. So the first one will pop through at 1 year old, and then it'll move from the back of the jaw towards the front of the jaw, eventually wear down. It's successive. Then the second molar will come in at around 2 years old, and it'll be slightly bigger. Again, start at the back, move its way to the front. And then the third molar will come in at 6 years old. And as it moves towards the front of the jaw, it wears down and it breaks. Eventually, the tooth will fall out, and eventually the roots will be reabsorbed. The fourth molar comes in at around 15 years old. Fifth, 28 years old. And the sixth, 47 years old. And every time a molar erupts, it's longer and wider and just generally larger than the previous one. So after molar 6, I'm afraid there's no more molars. And that's normally the cause of death, generally in older elephants, because their teeth are all worn down. They're not able to chew their food any longer. In summer, they could maybe get away with swallowing grass, but in winter, survival wouldn't be possible. It's normally, other than sort of disease and parasites, it's normally the cause of death in elephants. So yes, they have 6 molars. I actually have an elephant molar in my car with me, which I'll show you in just a bit. It's at the bottom of my box right now. Raphael, best joke of the day so far. I'm going to give it to you. You're saying you hope they have a good dental plan. Me too. Especially when your teeth are that important and you've only got 6 sets. We should ask them who their dental plan providers are. But the tusks, as I mentioned, it's just an elongated tooth. You know, we term it ivory when it's away from the elephant, and there's obviously an ivory trade, but otherwise it is just an elongated, modified tooth. Oh, what a lovely sight. And we're going to head into Torchwood now and look for Tandy and Cup, but we're going to send you guys down to Tswalu with some bat-eared foxes.
So, guess what? She hasn't moved. All she's done is put her head down, snooze a little bit, and then she picks it up. So I think we're going to move on from here and go and see what else we can find. But she's definitely not coming closer. She's not making any sounds. She's just been lying there snoozing. So I think we've got to try a bat-eared den fox in the afternoon, late afternoon, just before the sun sets, when the adults are going to start getting active to go feeding. Maybe she'll have them out the den, feeding them in the afternoon. But that's pretty much a sleeping bat-eared fox is all we have at the moment. And we've been observing this little scaly feathered finch. It's in and out of that blackthorn with grass. It's busy making a nest in that bush. Romilly's asking if bat-eared foxes pair for life, male and female. Now, I actually don't know. I'm going to just quickly... Oh, I've got to open the library for a second. Give me a second to answer that. But we do know from what we've been observing is that the male does have quite a lot in sort of parental care only once the female stops suckling the pups. And that'll be still for sort of 14, 15 weeks. Let me see what it says here in the breeding. I'd rather check. It doesn't say anything about monogamy in the book, so normally if they are, it would say that. So possibly not. Sometimes the reason for not being monogamous is so that you're consistently changing the genetics in the area. If you land up that your population needs to disperse, you don't want sort of fathers mating with daughters because they're in the local area. So very often that's one of the reasons, but I don't see... Oh, apologies, my apologies. I've just read here, as pairs mate for life. So that's then monogamous. Normally they actually say under breeding, it just says monogamous, but I have read it here now, mates, the pairs mate for life. So well done. And my apologies for not reading the full thing. So I don't. They sort of lifespan is just under 13 years. Lucy is asking, what are their predators? I think they'd probably mostly be worried about jackal, maybe eagles for the pups, but nothing really that I can think of that would bother them. I mean, I've seen cheetah grab a bat-eared fox and just rough them up a little bit, but not kill them to eat them. They just upset him for the day and then left him to wander on his own way. So when there isn't a natural predator that controls the population, like, for example, a lion would control impala populations in an area, or cheetah would control the impala population. When you have something that doesn't necessarily control them from a predator point of view, you sometimes have things like diseases. If the population expands to a certain point, you land up with a disease, like canine distemper and rabies, and those can sort of knock back the population. And those are natural in a system. So sometimes that's Mother Nature's way of going through a process of eliminating some that are weak or just sort of reducing the population. Anthrax is another one of those diseases that happens in some areas where there's heavy drought over many years, and that drought just sort of thins out some of the species and just sort of presses the reset button for nature. So for them, I'd say they're probably more controlled by disease than they are by predators. No, Mum's just tired. I think we're gonna start heading on. She hasn't decided to go to the den at all. James, that's quite a technical question. You're asking which of the canid species has the lowest mortality for their young. I'd probably say lions, actually, because we've just recently got new additions to our southern pride. It looks like 4 lionesses have got 3 cubs each, so there's 12 of them. And provided that they're able to feed them as a pride, they'd actually be quite successful. So cheetah, probably lower. We have some females with 5 cubs, and by the time they get to adulthood, there's only 1 or 2 left. Jackal, probably sort of maybe 2 to 3 pups at a time, not all of them necessarily getting to adulthood. So I'd say as far as success goes with the carnivores, you probably are looking at the lions. But you're talking canids, which means you're actually talking about dogs. So then you've got to look at wild dog, which potentially anywhere up to sort of 14 pups. So I think some have been recorded up to 16 pups, but that's a lot. And it would also depend on the success of the pack as to whether they're able to raise all of those pups and how many are actually in that pack. But wild dogs, because it's a family affair and everyone is invested, that would probably be a canid here that would be quite successful. So I know that was a bit of a jumbled answer, but hopefully that gives you some answer to your question. No, Mummy's just sleeping. I think, Darby, I think we should move on. I think we can sort of drive a bit and see. Oh, now I move, she lifts her head. But otherwise, she's sleeping. We'll try again another day. I think we'll try this bat-eared fox den in an afternoon at some point, because we've tried now sort of 3-4 mornings in a row and we haven't been successful. So I think we'll try an afternoon and see what happens. Bye. She's probably like, oh, thank goodness they are moving on now. She's probably going to go straight to the pups now just because we've moved on. But we also have to just keep building that trust. We also have to be here, we have to leave, so that she knows we're not going to harm her in any way. So Hamid is asking the question, do we get wild dogs in Tswalu? Yes, we do. We just went through a little bit of a sort of population change, so within the next, cross your fingers, sort of 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we should be able to be in pursuit of some wild dogs. So yes, we do have wild dog on Tswalu. Just a beautiful, beautiful morning. We're just driving through sort of these little three thorn thickets, just seeing what else is around. No, that's not a camel pod. I was going to look for the camel pod acacia, which we were asked about yesterday, which is the smallest of the acacia species. But of course, when you're looking for it at the time, it's never there. We've got. Did you see it go in the nest? Oh, did you get that? No. Oh, there was a northern black corehorn that just went up. Let's go forward. Just keep watching in the sky. It might go up again. So probably a red-crested corehorn that literally just went straight up, puffed out all his feathers like a ball, tips backwards like he's been shot, and then tumbles down to the ground, and then just before he hits the ground, he opens his wings and he lands. But I'm just going forward slowly so that maybe he does it again in that time frame. But he's sort of on the left-hand side of the road. They like to call from a particular perch, so either a termite mound or just a raised area of soil. Even a stone is good enough for them. They call it a lek or an arena, an area that he displays, and he shoots straight up, does that display, and that normally means there's a female in the area that he's trying to impress. So if she's close by, we might get to see it again. It was somewhere here, Darby. I'm going to just turn off and see if we can actually hear the red-crested corehorn calling. Maybe not right here. Let's just go around the bend a bit because there's a bit more of an open area. Where are you? Okay. So Darby's just seen him at the base of the tree. You just say, oh, okay, we're gonna try and get you a visual of the bird. Darby knows where he is. He's just told me to take this little two-track road. So stand by. You got him. Forward, back. Okay. Oh, there he is, yeah. Beautiful. Oh. He's coming out. Maybe he'll go up. Please, please, please. Now is your moment to shine, red-crested corehorn. He's not calling, though. So they got that... It's like a very, very loud clicking sound. And it just rises and rises. There's another one calling further back. So sometimes they respond to each other, which is where you'd get that. But that, I'm sure that costs energy to do that type of flight, that sort of fly straight up, tip backwards, and bump. No, don't run away. We were going to make you famous. That's definitely not a very helpful red-crested corehorn. So I can't really do the rest. It's kind of more like a whistle. So they've been really, really busy. So we get the sort of northern black corehorn here and the red-crested corehorn. And the red-crested, you hardly ever see it unless it's doing sort of a little mating display. So I think it's gone. Let me, I can't really show you that, but the phones don't normally work because they quite shiny screen, but there you can see the little red crest. And then the females are completely dull. Well, let me just, there. Oops, sorry. I'm going left, Darby's going right, but that's me that's making it messy. So the female, a completely brown, cryptic brown. We've absolutely got to love these apps. This is a Roberts Field Guide app, and all our information that certainly most of the information that I give you comes from this app. So those little red-crested corehorns, mainly insectivorous, eating termites. Let's take you up and over the dune. Maybe we can find that camel pod. So the other day we were talking, I know this is going to sound really, really strange, but I'm going to ask Darby to focus on the rock. And Gracie's asking if I've ever run out of petrol. Me personally, no, but other guides, I will say yes. I've been in this career long enough to have the odd one that has run out of petrol. So I've asked Darby to focus on the rock, and it does sound a little bit strange, but the other day we were asked the question is, where did the rock stars get their name? So this is Rock Star Junction, literally with one rock in the middle and 5 roads leading from that rock, makes it a star, so therefore this is Rock Star Junction. So that's how the meerkat group that originated in this area here got its name. They had their little holes back just on the western side of the road here, and that was where they used to live. So they have moved about 3 dunes over to the west since then, but it's still the same individuals, so we stick with their name, the Rock Stars. So those of you that were with us yesterday were very lucky to see the little 4 rockets come out. We call them little rockets, but they're little meerkat pups. They're really, really cute. So let's go up and over. I don't think Darby ever thought he'd show a rock on on live TV. Oh, somebody's been very busy here this morning. I can see. Let's see, I'm going to do that for you, Darby, and then I'm going to go and have a look at what's happening there or who's been there, because those are tracks. I think this is going to be where a wildebeest. Just want to see the tracks. Yeah, it looks like a wildebeest was here. He was... When we've had really good rains, yesterday we had a little bit of rain, then the soil gets nice and wet and nice and soft, and the wildebeest will come and they'll just roll around in here. They'll sort of put their face right down in the sand and rub it all over themselves, so they get this red soil stuck on their face, on their horns. And for the bulls, that's really awesome. That's like a really nice adornment. It's supposed to make them look prettier for the ladies. But I can see sort of a scraping here, which would be the curve of the horn. So it was facing this way. And then just rolling, so sort of this is the neck area, then this is the main body area going down towards the rump, and then just scratching and digging, and he's moved on from here. So sometimes these will also then become territorial scrapings for a blue wildebeest bull, in that he'll defecate, so he'll defecate in that area. It's not the most romantic. He'll scratch with his hooves because he's got pedal glands. He's got glands in between his hooves, so he leaves his scent behind. And then sometimes he rolls in it, which is never the nice part. There's a ha-ha-ha-de-da. There we go. And again, ha-ha-ha. He was just one flyby, probably on his way to one of the water holes. Oh, sorry. Darby was on him and I'm moving the vehicle. So he's heading out, we're going to also head out.
welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. We have been searching for a while for these wild dogs, but unfortunately no fresh signs of anything. So we are slowly moving away from the area, and we've just been driving along the riverbed, and we're looking for any signs of leopard, which again haven't found yet, but we'll still be looking. I'm very keen to look for leopard. I haven't quite seen one since I've been back for about a week, so it would be really cool to see a leopard again. And it's been a long time, almost a whole month since I've seen my last leopard, so I'd love to be able to see one again. And it's so funny, as soon as Jared mentioned that Mike had a flat tire, we got a flat tire ourselves. So we've had a bit of an adventure this morning, changing tires, racing around looking for wild dog tracks. But now we've changed our tire, everything's looking good, and so now we're slowing the pace down so we can try and spot any tracks or signs of these leopards. So Lee, the wild dog population, it's actually quite tough to give you an answer because there's not a single pack of wild dogs that hangs around Ngala. They cover a huge amount of range when they're moving around, and so we don't have a pack that's permanently based on Ngala. I mean, we often get one pack of wild dogs that is about 18 members strong with pups this year. They started 2 years ago with only 7 adults, and they've steadily grown. The pack of wild dogs that we've been seeing recently is actually a different pack, and apparently it's up to 20 members strong. And so both packs are big and healthy and looking good. But sometimes you'll see a pack of only 3 or 4 wild dogs, just depending on the pack itself. Particularly when the pack splits up. So when the youngsters get to a certain age, around about 2 years old, they'll actually leave the pack, whether it be in a group of males that leave or a group of females, and then that pack naturally is a bit smaller. That's when you'll see about 3 or 4 individuals rather than the bigger 20, 25 members that we've been seeing recently. Within the Kruger though, I mean, the whole Kruger, the whole 2.2 million hectares of it, apparently there's approximately between 500 and 550 wild dogs. Unless that's a South African figure, and it might be closer to 350 in the Kruger, but I'll double check that. Speaking of, Justice had a question for me yesterday morning that I wasn't quite sure of. So Justice was asking if hippos might fear the color red, and unfortunately I haven't been able to figure that one out yet. But because they're nocturnal, they do have very good eyesight. And so their cones and their rods are slightly different to humans. So they see in different colors to humans. And like I was mentioning yesterday morning, their eyesight is much more adapted for seeing in dark conditions. So they're receptive to light rather than receptive to the colors that we get to see here in human eyes. So one of the more exciting things, this is actually quite cool to see. This one here on the right-hand side, and it's one of the things that I love the most about this time of year is the flowers and all the fruits in the different plants that we see here. And this one is an African wattle. And this is one of the last trees that have been flowering this season. Most of the other trees have already flowered, and a lot of them are starting to fruit, which is really cool. So we're getting things like sour plums, we're getting marulas that are starting to fruit. We've seen around Tented Camp, there's a red ivory that started to fruit, so it's really, really cool. Just creates extra colors in the bush. Very nice. So where we're heading to is more away from the river now and heading towards one of the small pans that we have in this area, just to see if there's any activity here this morning. Roxanne, that riverbed that we've just been driving along doesn't flow permanently ever, really. So it hasn't properly flowed this season. I think in the very, very beginning of the season, so somewhere around early October, where we got pretty much half of our annual rainfall, so it was 200 millimeters within about 2 weeks. We got a very, very, very small trickle. So it was in some places in the river, it was trickling about this wide. When we're lucky and we get good rains, so it's usually at the end of January into February, and we get really, really nice rains within the catchment area, which is closer towards the Drakensberg Mountains in the west. If we get a good rainy season and then within about 24 hours have between 50 to 60 millimeters of rain, there's a very good chance that the Timbavati River will flow. Even then, it doesn't flow for long. It flows for maybe about 24 to 48 hours, and then it starts to seep back into the sand. So we haven't seen that yet this season. It did flow last season, and that was actually unusual because it flowed, I think, for about 3 days, which is really cool. It's been really nice to see how the bush has transformed after these early rains in the summertime, and it just seems like everything has got the chance to absorb all the nutrients that the water provided, and it's just made the bush extra, extra lush and green and beautiful. I'd love to see if we can. I'll try and see if I can find a sour plum or something. Run. Luckily enough, I haven't been stuck in too many dangerous situations, and I think a lot of the time if we do get stuck, it's human error, so it's us reading the situation wrong that puts us into a situation. I think most recently I've been watching a pride of lions and a herd of elephants came in to chase the lions away, which was a bit hair-raising, but luckily enough we saw the elephants from a distance and we were able to reposition and not get in between the elephants and the lions that they were chasing. It's just one of those things. The more time you spend in the bush, the more experience you get, and the more, I guess, awareness you start to build up, and then that gives you the tools to remain as neutral as we possibly can. Because we're not here to influence the animals or change their behavior. We just want to sit as neutrally as we possibly can. Just looking for some sour plums. So we just try to be as neutral as we possibly can. So this area here, last night when we drove past of it, it was just an abundance of animals. And I think they were coming out. It's a nice open area, so they're coming out to settle for the evening. We'll see if we can maybe see if they're still around. What we noticed, which was also really cool, is that these impala lambs are starting to grow in confidence now that they're getting older, and it seems like they're getting more and more energetic. And they spent about 20 or 30 minutes just chasing each other around in these big circles around the herd as the adults were feeding. Yep, so as we get into these open areas, it looks like there are absolutely no animals left. So we'll send you over to Kim, and hopefully she's got more animals to show you.
Welcome back. We are busy looking at a young jackal pup. Actually was lying in the shade and just got a bit of a fright and ran off behind this thicket. is a side-striped jackal, which is the one we get more commonly here at Phinda, not the black-backed jackal that you might be seeing in the low veld. What's really interesting, look, there's a zebra that's running into the area, and it's possibly what scared that pup off. We still have a view of him. I think he might have just disappeared. These open areas are perfect territory for these jackals. They actually can have very... Oh, there, he's just bugged out of the right. Look there. So why we say it's a pup, as you can see, it's just a bit smaller, and then they look a little bit more scraggly. They're tiny little heads, matted fur. They do live in family units, so the mother and the father are probably not too far, somewhere else on this territory. Really stunning for it to go out in the open for us to get such a nice view. You can see that prominent white stripe on the side. Now that's going to develop even more prominently as it grows older, but that is why we call it the side-striped jackal. Oh, there it goes. So most likely is going to find another patch of shade. Oh, it's just stopped and watched us. Okay, I'm just going to quickly reposition a little bit, turn around so we can get a better view. I think he is going a little bit nervous of us, so he might keep on running away. Okay, there we go. There's a wildebeest off to our left that's actually alarming, but funny enough, they're alarming at us. One of the few animals that does alarm call at the vehicle sometimes. And there it goes. I think most likely trying to get a bit closer to the other two, the mother and the father, maybe even finding some shade. So the side-striped jackal, quite interestingly, compared to the black-backed jackal, they don't scavenge nearly as much. They actually rather hunt like little insects, little mice, and they even eat quite a few berries. So this time of the year, as some of the trees start to fruit, it's going to have quite a few berries in its diet. So we're just going to see if we can get another view of it here. It's run out into the open. Look at those three zebra. I'm going to just stop right here. There's the puppies run off to our right. But let's look at these three zebra, because I think as soon as we get close to him, he's going to run off again. How funny is it that they're all lined up in a row? You can see zebra, now they're all facing straight towards the pup. Oh, how is that? I wish I had my camera sometimes. It's a beautiful photo right there. It's like almost like synchronized swimmers, these three. Yeah, he's off too. No, he's gone. He's run off again. So if we have a look at these three zebra, it's actually quite a nice contrast. So look at the one on the far left and just compare the stomach sizes. You can see that one is very heavily pregnant. She's bulging out at the moment. You can see the one in the middle about normal size, and then the one on the right also quite bulging. So I think those one on the left and the right are both pregnant, but the one on the left is probably very close to giving birth. I mean, she is huge. And they have about a 12-month gestation period, so you can imagine it's been about a year ago she fell pregnant and is probably going to give birth to her foal very soon. So interestingly, zebra don't have a distinctive birthing season, unlike warthog and wildebeest and impala. We're seeing a lot of those young around this time of the year. Zebra can give birth anytime. That being said, there's a lot of benefits for them to have their foal around now. So she's actually timed hers really well. We've got another zebra running into the area. This is a male, and he is most likely the stallion of this harem. It's got beautiful bold stripes, that one off to the left. So what he will do is he tries to take over females one at a time, and he generally builds up. Males generally have a harem of females around 5 to 6 females, but it can vary. So it looks like this male's maybe got a harem of 4 females, those 3 that we saw, and then there was one a little bit off to the left. He ran off when we saw that jackal papa. I think he might have even seen another zebra. Maybe it was just showing him, don't try and take away my females, because that's how they build up their harems, is the males will actually challenge each other and fight over a female, and then try and whoever wins will introduce that female into the harem and slowly build up their harem of females. And if we have a look at this one, he seems to be in prime condition. Any cuts or marks along his fur at all. Not looking old. So I think he might still be able to get a few more females in his harem. Oh, it's interesting that we always see the zebra out in the open as it starts to get hotter. There's a lot of theories as to why. One of them is, if you have a look at those contrast of the stripes, the white and the black, there's a theory that the contrasting color creates a little eddy current which cools the zebra down. Now, I'm not entirely sure that if that's true, but what I did see the other night, so we had a thermal imaging camera, and we actually looked at the zebra and we looked at the giraffe, the 2 animals that they think those contrasting colors sort of do something to cool them down. It seems like they might line up with blood capillaries, and then there's a bit of heat exchange that goes on. And it was very interesting to see that there was a definite change in between those colors. You could actually see that there was a sort of a heat difference along the stripes, which you could pick up with the thermal imaging camera. So that's a theory, and whether it's true or not, we'll have to probably do a few more experiments, a few more studies on it to get a definite answer. But there is something to it. You often find zebra out in the heat of the day. One's one of the few antelope that will be feeding, even in the hot sun, where you often find the wildebeest and impala and everything have now taken to resting in the shade. Catriona, I love your question. Thank you for asking that. And the short answer is actually yes. So we can tell the gender from a zebra's stripes, but it is a very specific stripe, and it's in a very specific spot, and it's right underneath the tail. So let's see, we've got to have a look. None of them, this is the first time I've actually seen, none of these zebra are facing their bums to us. But I'll tell you how to tell in any case. Maybe as soon as they turn around, we might get lucky enough to see. But there is a stripe that goes right below the tail of a zebra. And you'll see most most animals actually have like a gap of fur just below the tails, especially in the females. They have a wider gap of fur, and it's because after they give birth, it's a very difficult area for them to clean. So there's a patch that there's no fur at all, and that's just in case of the afterbirth. So the males always have a thinner patch and the females have a much thicker patch. Now zebras actually have black skin, so they will have a wider patch of bare skin below their tail. So the females will always have like a long black stripe just below the tail, and the males have a very thin black stripe. So we always have a little joke saying the males wear the G-strings and then the females wear the granny panties with the zebra. I'm hoping that one of them turn around and show us their bum, and then maybe we can actually have a good look at that. Just noticed that there's a zebra off to the left that I thought was perhaps one of the other females in this harem. Went off to the far left, and you can see it's got quite a bad injury on its back left leg. It's not putting any weight on it at all. And in fact, the hoof even seems to be angled a little bit funny, you know. Almost as if it's pointing the hoof. I think there's serious injury that's gone on there. Yeah, look at that. It's not putting any weight on that. I think it's broken a joint right by the hoof, and that's why it's hanging. That's quite an unfortunate injury, because I don't think something like that is going to be able to recover from, you know. Zebras are generally very, very hardy animals. So I'm sure some of you have seen where the coat is all the stripes don't exactly line up. They line up a bit off center, and it's because their skin can peel away quite easily, but it also mend very well. It's an adaptation they have for if something were to catch them when they're running away. They'd rather have a bit of skin ripped off than the lion or the leopard get a good grip on them. But it's amazing how quickly they can mend, and even sprains and things animals can survive from. But this one seems like a very serious one. Does seem to be a young male. So possibly what could have happened is it might have actually been fighting with something and gave it a good kick and just misplaced that kick. Kicked at a funny angle, managed to break its own foot. Perhaps it was fighting and both kicked at the same time, and the other one kicked it in its foot and it broke that foot. Or it could have just been running and misplaced that foot into like a dried up animal track. Something that just, as it put it in, misplaced it and managed to break it off. So what we're going to do is we're going to check a few other open areas for some cheetah. And we've had no luck so far this morning, but we've still got a few open plains that they might have gone to. So we're going to head in those areas, and hopefully we will see you soon.
An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. Wild Earth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, Wild Earth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. Wild Earth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
Jumbo, my name is Isaac Rotich. I come live to you every day from the Mara Triangle in Kenya, East Africa. I think the most underrated animal here where we are is the spotted hyena. And the main reason is people haven't read any literature to fully understand about this super predator.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Wild Earth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special Wild Earth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a Wild Earth Explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
We've managed to catch up with these lions that have been found this morning. So this is actually one of the cubs that we are looking at the moment. And so this is the lioness with the two youngest cubs of the major pride that we see in this area. And they are really enjoying nice soft grass and a good patch of shade. So we don't have the other two in view. They are actually in the bushes to the left of where this cub is. And it looks like they are settled in for the day. We were hoping that it would at least pick up its head and so we could see its face. But unfortunately, it looks like they're feeling pretty tired and they're not moving around too much. So these lions have actually been away from the pride for at least 9-10 days now. And it just seems like they tend to be missing one another. So they crisscross each other's direction. When she starts walking north towards the pride goes south, and they completely miss one another. And I wonder if it's not a tactic that she's deploying, because, I mean, having those 7 or 8 sub-adults with such ferocious appetites means that at meal times, the two younger cubs get outcompeted, and they'll probably not get nearly enough food as they might need with these growing bodies of theirs. And so this lioness has been probably keeping them separate and is introducing them into the pride whenever she feels the need. So Kendra, they leave the pride pretty much for that exact reason, you know. At this age, they're old enough and big enough and fit enough to stay with the pride if she wanted to keep them with the pride. But just because those hungry sub-adults just eat too much and will outcompete these younger cubs, you know, whenever there's a mealtime, they get pushed off the main meat, and they literally won't get a chance to eat until the other lions are done. And by that stage, the carcass, the majority of the time, will be finished, unless it's something huge like a buffalo or a giraffe even. And so I'm sure this lioness is preferring to go hunting herself. And I mean, if she catches something like a small wildebeest at this time of year, that's enough to probably sustain her two cubs, at least for a little while before she needs to hunt again. Whereas if they're with the pride and a small wildebeest gets caught, the majority of the time, if a male's in there, he runs in, he'll take the whole carcass and he'll probably feed on the whole entire thing and not leave a single morsel left. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time, having such a big pride for that exact same reason. And a lot of the time, you know, the pressure just boils over and the pride will end up splitting. And it's exactly what happened to this exact pride in I think 2011, 2012, where there was 24 lions altogether, and there was just so much internal competition between the pride at meal times that the prides ended up splitting off. And that's why we have the main Birmingham pride, which is this pride of lions, and we've got the Birmingham Breakaway Pride that the Wild Earth fans who have been watching for a while may have seen once in a blue moon. Is a bit of a rollover. And so, I mean, there is a danger, especially, so within the next 2 years, there will be 12 adults. And of those 12 adults, 7 of them, or 8 of them, between 7 and 8 will be females. And so they'll all be giving birth around that time. And I mean, 7 females who give birth to between 2 to 4 cubs at a time, and just those numbers start to exponentially increase. And it just is unsustainable for lions. You know, they've got a limit as to what they can hunt and when they can hunt it. And so, you know, if things go well for this pride, we might be looking at another split away within the next couple of years. I already mentioned a couple of days ago, we suspect that there are at least 2 lionesses, some of the mature females, who have spent less and less time with the pride, who might be looking for a den site at the moment. We saw them mating with males in September time, and it's around about now, after 3.5 months, that they should, if the mating was successful, they might be looking to find a place to den. And so the next question is, will there be another white cub? Because everything is pretty much the same. So Raphael lions do have whiskers, and I think, you know, it will be, they're not really long. I mean, they probably extend about this far away from their faces. And so I'm sure it will be the exact same purpose that most cats use their whiskers, but they don't necessarily need to use them as much. And I think it's because of the habitat that they're in. You know, they don't really need to feel their way around and fit into tight spaces. Whereas if you look at how a leopard's whiskers are, they're very long. And they tend to prefer these much denser environments. And so they might need their whiskers a lot more than a lion might need. So they do have them, but I'm sure it's not really as useful as what a leopard's whiskers might be. I mean, it will just take me a few seconds, but I'd like to just pop around to the other side of the bush and just see if we might be able to see the lioness and maybe even the other cubs. So bear with me whilst I reposition. Okay. So I'll just pop around the corner here. So Dazzle Wazzle, you asking, here we go. It's a really nice view of the female. She might get up now because she is fully in the sun. So how are we doing there? Okay, let me just get the bar out of the way. Sorry, Dazzle Wazzle, I'll be with you in a second. Oh, I think I have to reverse rather than move forward. Apologies for all of the movement, everyone. There we go, we're in a good gap there. So the last time I saw a male was about 3 days ago, and he was with the main pride, and he looked like he was doing fine. I didn't see him up and moving around, but by now that leg is perfectly fine. Or when I say perfectly fine, it's much better than what it was. He still walks with a limp, but it's not hindering him at all. But still hanging on. Very tenacious young male to hang on for so long after getting chased away by all of the big dominant males. How's that for Murphy's Law? We're sitting in one position, and as we move around, she moves to exactly where we were. But at least we got to see some sort of movement. And there is the second cub in the bush. You can just see the black tip behind the ear there. So this is how summer can be sometimes quite tricky looking for these predators, because it's not even 8 o'clock and they are all sleeping and just resting in an area where, if a vehicle hadn't seen them 45 minutes ago and they were in this situation, I think we could have spent days looking for them without ever spotting them from the road. And so looking for lions is tough enough, but trying to find a leopard in habitat as dense as this is very tricky. And to make matters worse, I mean, they don't have to move very far to find water at this time of year, or food with so many young impalas around. And when they catch something like a young impala, they'll devour the whole carcass. And so we can't really follow the trail of them dragging it towards a tree to hoist up, because they're finished and they're done with their meal within a few minutes. So we might try and reposition to our original spot to see if the view improves. If it doesn't, BK and I are going to continue on and see if we can find anything else. But Lauren is out and about looking for animals, so let's see what she's looking for.
We found Tandy. What we didn't find was signal. So rather frustrating. We have left Torchwood, and it was her cub last night. For any of you who were watching, there was a leopard stalking a full adult male giraffe, and the story goes that the giraffe just looked absolutely shocked. But yet the leopard continued to stalk it, and it was Tandy's cub. Of course it was Tandy's cub. Why did we think it wasn't? So Tandy's there. She's looking regal as always, but unfortunately we have to leave. So I'm back in Djuma, and now I have to make another plan. I don't have a plan. I think the plan is to bumble and see what else we can come across. But at least the drought of the spots in the northern sector at least is coming to an end. There's a skittish male being seen up in Buffelshoek quite a few times. The other day we tried to find him for you, but being skittish and being a leopard, it's not possible. Leopards are generally shy, they're generally elusive. The Sabi Sands, where we are right now, is one of the most famous areas in the world. To get so close to leopards is not common, and I think that's what... And I'm talking, we're so used to seeing leopards so intimately, meters from the car, so relaxed that we forget it's actually not their true nature. Because they're solitary, because they've got to avoid other competitors, they've got to avoid lions, they've got to avoid hyenas, and they've got to rely of stalking and ambush to surprise their prey. That's why they live this elusive, shy life, and we tend to forget. Habituated here. Vehicles. It's just the nature of the Sabi.
We are actually just leaving those lions now. The view hasn't improved at all, and it's not going to get better throughout the morning. And so we are going to continue on with our day. And because it's so hot, I think the best bet is to stick along the shadier parts of the reserve, so along the riverbed towards water, and see if we can see anything cool. I'd love for us to see elephants swimming, one of my favorite things to watch in the bush. Cool. So we're back on the road now, and we'll slowly make our way towards one of the waterholes that are nearby. I did hear on the radio that the rest of the pride has been found, but exactly the same thing as the lioness and her 2 cubs. So we'll leave it for this morning, and maybe we'll try and follow up there this afternoon to see if we get some more action out of them. See if they play with one another. Maybe they're up and moving around a bit more. Okay, so I'm going to just keep my eyes forward for now, and the reason being is along this stretch I know that there's a tree with some beautiful sour plums on it in this area, and I don't want to miss it, so I can show you exactly what we are talking about. There's even a tree called a kai apple, which is a bit rarer here. You get to see them a lot more down at Pinda. And those kai apples are my favorite fruit to eat in the bush. They're about this big, and when they're ready to eat, they're yellow, and they taste almost exactly like an apricot. And you put the whole thing in your mouth, and it's got this beautiful pop when you bite it, and it is just so juicy. It's quite tough to beat the animals to those kai apples, though. A lot of the time, the birds and the monkeys and the baboons get their way before we do. And so you just basically see pips on the ground after they've finished eating the whole bush. Where is the sour plum? Okay, so if you thought leopards were hard enough to find, imagine trying to find a sour plum. So I'm going to need all of the concentration that I can get to try and find these plums, and we'll send you over back to another feed.
And off she goes. A fleeting glimpse of a female steenbok, but beautiful all the same. They always do that freeze tactic, but then this one clearly decided to flee. You can see how remarkably camouflaged they are. Although they're quite bright in colour, they're very fawny. They do stand out against the greenery. The grass is so long. The vegetation on either side of us is so long, it's lush. The bush is very, very thick, which of course is contributing to the fact that we're possibly not finding many of our leopards. But the weather always plays a part. Simon and I were just discussing that. The really grey, overcast days, in all my time here, we struggle. We struggle to find leopards in particular. Lions are a little bit easier. Haley, everyone always asks this question. It's such a difficult question. They all have their own personalities, that's for sure. If there's anyone that thinks leopards don't have personalities, you're so wrong. They are all so different. I think everyone knows my favourite male. And if you don't, I'm surprised. It has to be the one and only Tingana. He will always have my heart. Although I have to say, I am very, very... Sorry, I just see something, bear with me. I'm very, very in love with Klangula as well, but Tingana will always have my heart. Oh, hello, who do we have here? Let's zoom in, Simon. And female-wise... you can see how much I'm struggling with this question. I think I might have to say Tlalamba. Now, it has changed, but I think the princess has finally won me over. Now, I'm struggling to see. We clearly do have a bird of prey here. I'm wondering if it's a tawny. Looks quite petite, got its wings open. Tawny in colour, bright red beak. I can't see if it's got that tuft of hair, or feathers, should I say, that a Wahlberg's has. It could possibly be the Wahlberg's. It looks very dark on my monitor. Nope, doesn't have that tuft. I think it's a tawny. It's given us a beautiful view of its wing. When it opens its wings like this, it can either be trying to cool down or just aerate. We all get a little bit sweaty under the armpits now and again. And birds don't sweat, but it's just trying to aerate. Get air to flow through the feathers and possibly cool down. It's definitely not a steppe. We had a steppe earlier for you. It's a very, very dark morph. But I think this is a tawny. Hello. And you can see the flight feathers. It's given us such a beautiful view of his wings. Not all the feathers of a bird have the same function. Look at his hairy legs, his big talons. They all have different functions, in fact. They're all structured in a slightly different way. They're all feathers, just the same, but their structure allows them to sort of provide different benefits to the flight. If all the feathers were the same, a bird would not be able to lift itself up in the air. Now, the tail feathers are normally the most structured, the most rigid, got a lot of melanin in them to reinforce them. And this helps the birds, well, it helps different birds do different things. For example, in woodpeckers, they'll be very, very rigid because they actually balance on their tail. They use their tail almost like a third leg, if you like, when they're hanging and pecking away on trees. And you'll see the flight feathers at the end there when he had his wing open. They're very structured, but they can also splay open to assist a bird during flight. Normally the feathers on the chest of a bird are very soft, like down feathers, and this is for insulation purposes. You'll have primary feathers. You'll have secondary feathers. And aerodynamics for a bird is quite an achievement. To lift yourself off the ground, defy gravity, and get up into the air. Critter freak, you're saying you love seeing eagles. Me too. I've got a real deep appreciation for raptors. And we get a lot of raptors here. We're very, very lucky in that regard. I don't think they see, for example, so many raptors in the likes of Tswalu, big birds of prey. It's remarkable, their survival techniques, how they hunt. Vultures can actually be classified as raptors too, in a sense. You also get sensory feathers. These are called phyloplumes. And they're found between the contour feathers. You've got different contour feathers going all the way down the body to shape the body, giving it really a sort of streamlined shape in order to facilitate movement through the air. So fish, for example, are very streamlined in order to facilitate movement through the water, in order to reduce drag. It's the exact same for birds, but in the air. They've got to be streamlined. If they're not streamlined, it will create resistance in the air and make flight very difficult. And the phyloplumes, these are the ones that are on the inner wing. They're very long. They're filamentous, which actually gives them the name phyloplumes, and they detect changes in the air currents, little pockets of air, and that's how they're able to fly so well. What a good find. I think we're going to head to Gowrie Dam, and we're going to send you guys across to Eric at Ngala.
We have managed to find the elusive sour plum. And I just want to show it to you. So that is what it looks like when it's ripe. And this tree has been raided by what I am assuming is baboons. So if I go down here, just to show you how popular these are, I mean, I'm just going to grab a couple of handfuls quickly. But these are all the skins of the sour plums that have been completely eaten by these animals. So when they are this color, they're not quite ready. I would like to see them in a slightly red color, but beggars can't be choosers. And then if you've got a death wish, you might be able to try something like this, which is completely unripe and not ready. And so what we do with these sour plums is it's quite easy. You give them a bit of a squish, and I'm not going to eat it on live TV because that will just be embarrassing, and I'm ugly enough, and my facial expressions when I eat something sour is even worse. But you just pop it open like that, and you peel it, and usually they're much a deeper red color. So if they're slightly orange and whitish like that, that means they're going to be super sour. And then you can literally just squeeze them like that, and pop it into your mouth and just see all of that juice. So it starts off sweet, and then as you get closer to the pip, it gets sour and sour. And this is what the pip looks like. And it's got a small husk, but once you peel it, it's actually got a really, really nice seed that is also edible. And I've done that for you now. And so that's what it looks like. That's the last little bit of the husk that I've managed to peel off, and then you're left with the seed, which, like I said, is edible. And it's not anything like the sour plum itself. It's got quite a weird texture and consistency. If you can imagine a cross between a coconut and a macadamia, I would say that's exactly what it tastes like and feels like when you eat it. So that's the sour plum. Really cool to see at this time of the year. So I think we'll keep going, and maybe what we can try and do is find other fruits that might be edible. I might challenge might challenge Kim to find us a kai apple so you can see what I was talking about a bit earlier. But it sounds like there's a really cool bird in one of the other feeds, so let's go across to there.
All this talk of fruit is making me hungry. I love fruit. I'll tell you who doesn't love fruit. This guy here, southern ground hornbill. I've not had a good look at his chin. That big ball of gas is emitting extraordinary amounts of rays. The sun is finally popped through and it's glorious, but my eyes are not used to it anymore. But you can't tell if it's male or female, the ground hornbills. I don't see a blue patch under the chin, but of course I could be missing it. It's a bit of a long distance visual. And there's just ground hornbills everywhere right now. It's astounding. We go through months, if not an entire year, without seeing them. And all of a sudden, they're everywhere. They're nesting right now in lots of different locations. And they're fastly becoming one of my favourite species of birds. Oh, off we go. And just like that, disappeared. Many people ask, can they fly? Can they fly? And I understand why people think that. One, because their name is ground hornbill. And two, they're very heavy birds. Really heavy, large birds. They don't necessarily look like they would be able to fly so gracefully. And yet they can. They're very good flyers. They can fly fast. Okay, after all those birds, we're finally making our way to the dam.
Top of the morning to you. We're at one of our water holes. We've made it to the dam. So, nice bachelor group, a journey of giraffe. So we had one bull in the background framed up, and FC said, "We're coming to you," and then he said, "But where did your giraffe go?" So Davy and I were busy talking, and the giraffe just walked completely out of the shot, and he was gone. Fortunately, he's led us to the rest of them at the dam. He's coming in there at the back. So everybody's thirsty. It is warm already here, and promises to just get much, much hotter. So busy feeding on. I'm trying to get my binoculars so I can tell you what they're feeding on. Mrs. Lapwing is off her nest. This is the same place with the lapwing. I just want to see what they look like they're feeding on buffalo thorns at the back there, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus the guy in the background, 7 male giraffe together. So they come and go as they please, but when you find this many together, they've got their sort of hierarchy, they've got their social structure of who's more dominant than the other, and they'll constantly sort of be pushing each other around, testing, fighting, knowing who's the bigger one, who's going to get their breeding opportunities. And there will be even more dominant, possibly even bigger bulls in the area that will maybe get the breeding. This might be interesting. If these giraffe go anywhere near that lapwing's nest, she might start making noises at them to tell them that they're too close. We might get a little bit of argy-bargy with those two in the front there. Okay, so they're approaching. They're almost... Oh, no, they're far enough away from the nest. So she hasn't done anything. She's not moving yet. But she'll be quite vigorous about defending the nest. It doesn't matter what comes too close to the nest. If she's got eggs or chicks, she'll be quite aggressive. And when she starts making lots of noise, they'll raise their wings up to make themselves look a bit bigger, make lots of noise, and the partner will come in as well to help that defense. Okay, so no. So far, so good for the lapwing. It's basically at the bottom of the feet of the one in the front there. Oh, look at them. Look at them moving. Oh, that giraffe's just that much closer to the lapwing. The third one. Oh, she's hunkering down. Oh, such a brave lapwing. This is a beautiful shot. You can see the lapwing is literally at the feet of that giraffe. So basically, out of the 2 back legs, it's the one on the left-hand side of the screen. You're just seeing a little bit of black, white, and grey. That's the body of the blacksmith lapwing. So she's sitting very, very low on the nest. She hasn't moved. She's probably hoping that they just move on without her having to expend too much energy. But if there is a possibility that they come too close, she may have to give them some kind of a warning. Just pretty. Don't forget to send your questions to #WildEarth and put @FC in the front. That one in the middle is definitely trying to push the other guy around a bit, but he's not interested. What a beautiful scene. It's nice to have that many. Maybe this one. We might have caught the tail end of them drinking, so they likely have already drunk and now are moving on. But we'll see if they sort of turn to come back to the water. But I think they have already drunk. Such a peaceful scene. So you can actually see there's sort of like almost a false set of horns, listen to me, a false set of horns behind the front set of horns. So they're not technically horns, they're ossicones, but they do sometimes get like a bony protrusion directly behind. It almost looks like they get a second set. Oh, there's some nicking happening on the right there. Nothing too serious at this stage, but Stanley's asking the question, do giraffe sleep standing up? So yes, but they also do lie down. But the giraffe are actually one of those incredible animals that needs very little sleep. They can function on what's called about 20 minutes of sleep in a day, which is amazing. But if they do lie down, they just sort of fold their legs up underneath them like a horse or any other animal. Sometimes they'll bend their neck like that and rest their head on their rump, or they just have their neck upright. So for them, lying down is not lying flat, so they don't put their neck flat on the ground, and that's just because they're ruminants. So lying flat, if they lie flat for too long, those stomach contents get regurgitated up into the throat, and they could actually almost drown from their own regurgitation. So it's always dangerous for a giraffe to be sort of lying flat on the ground for too long. So they don't lie flat, they'll fold their legs up underneath them and then keep their neck upright. Here in the Kalahari, having not very, very tall trees for them to stand under like they would at Djuma and Pinda, they do lie down in the heat of the day underneath the shade. And that's how we see them. They're not too worried about too many predators, but they are always on alert. It's amazing that the larger the animal, the less sleep it needs, and then the smaller the animal, the more sleep it requires. And I think it's got to do with energy requirement. But giraffe won't move around at night. They'll feed a little bit at night, but they're not going to be moving too much. I've surprised the giraffe bull that walked into a camel thorn thicket and just stood there the whole night. So speaking of animals that don't sleep for very long, we're going to send you over to Pride Lens, who's got some elephants for you.
There's a young elephant bull that's also now just arrived at Ndlovu Dam. We went for a bit of a drive, searching around the area, but no tracks or signs of that young male lion. So we've come back to the dam, and this elephant is digging quite deeply in the water over there. I don't know if it was looking for something amongst the roots there. Perhaps there's just some nice mud, I'm not really sure. Now he seems to be having a bit of a drink. Although the wind is blowing towards us, what's swirling a bit, but the water smells really bad. Can't imagine that it's very tasty, but then again, there's not too much other water around. Even after the rains we've had, the ground is so thirsty, just sucking in everything. None of the rivers in the area are flowing, so there's no clean water anywhere. So the elephants have to make do. What a strange way of standing. Must be a stump there or something. Just having a bit of a listen. I feel like I can hear other elephants around the area. I'm not sure if it's other elephants or maybe I'm just hearing things. But every now and again this elephant just stops dead still, perhaps listening. Perhaps there's some long-range communication happening. Flapping its ears every now and again as well. Partly to keep away the flies. There's a lot of flies around here at the moment. Partly to keep away those annoying buzzing insects. But also to keep cool. I wonder if he's going to swim. There's a bit of clouds coming over now, interestingly. And Seb was saying earlier, thought maybe it might rain again a bit later. Or at least some weather might be arriving, so you could see quite a lot of cloud cover. Not a lot, not like a thick layer, but it's starting to come in. Well, hopefully it's not going to get too much rain. I'd like it to sunny up a little bit. I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the quiet for a little bit. Another elephant coming down to the water now. Dare for Mercy, it's not alone. I mean, it's standing by itself now, but I'm sure these elephants communicate over huge distances. So there's another one coming down now, which it's probably been chatting to for a while. This looks like an elephant that was probably at the waterhole a little earlier. It's quite dark in colour. So perhaps it just went to have a bit of food, and now it's on its way back. A very impressive looking elephant. Showing signs of maybe a little bit of excitement. Perhaps he was having a play fight with another elephant. Oh, I see he's shaking his head like that. Perhaps he's in a slightly heightened state of aggression. Maybe even coming into the early stages of must. I'll have to keep an eye on him. See how he reacts to this other elephant. But yeah, elephants are never really alone because they can communicate over huge distances. I've heard people say 15 kilometers, but who knows, maybe it could be even further. They scratching his belly there. Sometimes you got an itch, you just got to scratch it whichever way you can. So those feet, as you see as it walks, you see its feet spreading out, these big fleshy pads. And that is how they feel vibrations in the earth from those low rumbles that they give. So the bird that you can hear, the Natal spurfowl, very high-pitched sound, won't travel very far. The elephant's very low-pitched rumbles, covering huge distances. Lots and lots of bird activity with all the termites from yesterday. Here, Diederik's cuckoo and grey-headed bushshrike, hornbills, woodland kingfishers, all these animals, birds that eat insects. Very active today. Absolutely does, doesn't it? I'm glad you all like the elephants here. There are a lot of them, and although I don't know, he's very confidently striding over that log that usually holds up many elephants. It's actually quite large elephants, looking at him now as he gets closer. There's a lot of them, and they're always characters, elephants. They always have very distinctive behavior. I mean, you get to know them quite well. I've really loved getting to know Kumo and Limpy. Of course, EXELBY, the large elephant bull, comes around every now and again. There's Notch, the one elephant that likes to come to camp often. This elephant actually does look a lot like Kumo, but I don't think it is. His tusks are not symmetrical enough. Kumo also has a bit of a damage on his trunk, and there's another elephant coming up behind us as well. Two young bulls actually having a bit of a play fight. Hey guys, don't come too close to us now. When we're in a vehicle like this and the elephants play around us, we're always a bit nervous that they might push each other on top of us. Tendela, they certainly do use their trunks to breathe, so we're going to try and put these elephants here fighting behind us on camera because it's really awesome. Don't mind if you see a student in the background walking by the tents. That's our camp, but look at these two. They fought right past the back of us. They do breathe through their trunks. It's just like a nose. Tendela, it's a very long, modified nose. It does the same thing that our nose does if our nose was able to pick things up and manipulate them. Oh, look at the smaller elephants moving back like that. He's like reaching out with his trunk as if to placate or calm down the other elephant, saying, okay, you win, I have enough. I've had enough. So the one elephant has been in the water already this morning, or at least the last couple of days. It's very dark. This one that's walking off now is a lighter coloured elephant. Hasn't been in the water. Oh, see now, you were walking away, everything was fine, and then you had to go and antagonize. Now look what you've done. It's not going to stop chasing me. Well, as we said, it's going to be busy with elephants and other animals at this waterhole the whole day. So we're just going to keep staying here. This is the best. It was amazing how quiet those elephants were sneaking up on us. It's only when they started pushing each other that I even heard them. They were very close. What a nice morning. Even some impalas now coming down. Well, what more could one hope for when one is out in the bush than to enjoy the presence of all these animals?
So we've, over the last few days, we've been following up on this Cape Glossy starling nest. She's chosen this beautiful dead camel thorn to make her nest in a nice little hole in the side, probably made by a woodpecker at some point. And then the nest is right at the bottom. Harvey's going in. It's going to take a little bit of technical camera work here, but in that slit you can sort of see the hole on the right-hand side, and then in the slit, as he zooms in, there's actually 2 chicks inside there. So they're 1 week and 1 day old. They sort of hatched last week Friday, and every now and again you just see movement inside the hole. There we go. So that is one of the chicks. The mother's around. We've just been trying to sit still to see if she's got food in her beak. We were hoping that we'd get the angle coming in through the hole and being able to show you her feeding the chicks, but she does. Oh, she's just arrived. She's landed in the tree. She's at the top of the tree. She's got quite a lot of food in her mouth. So we just sit still. Oh, she's got a nice, looks like a nice good juicy grub. If we just sit still, maybe she'll oblige us and bring it down to the chicks. So normally she makes a little bit of a noise when she comes in so that the chicks know to be ready. She's playing with us. She's just, sometimes I don't want to go to the nest if there's a presence because they feel that they'd be giving it away. Because we're near the dam all the time in the vehicle, she should be okay with us here. If she doesn't come and feed now while we sit here, then we're going to move on so that she can actually give those chicks that food. So she's lined it nicely with some grass and some feathers. There were 3 eggs in there, and one hatched sort of Friday morning last week, and then one hatched Friday afternoon, and the 3rd egg has since disappeared. So she is feeding 2 mouths at this stage. She's moved again in the tree, so maybe she got tired of waiting and she just ate that for herself. Normally that's if you see a bird with food in its mouth and it doesn't consume that food, but it lands on a branch somewhere close by and just sort of looks around a little bit and doesn't actually eat the food, then you know that that's an adult bringing food into a nest. So if you're in your garden at home and you notice that behavior, just watch where the bird goes and you might likely find exactly where the nest is with the chicks. Did she go? I think she's gone again. Oh. So, yeah, I suggested that would probably mean you got a sort of a peek of the chick in the nest there. So I think we should probably move out so that she can come and bring them their food because she's she doesn't want to come in while we're sitting here, so we'll leave her to feed the kids. Somebody else that's getting lots of food is the sociable weavers. There's another beautiful camel thorn tree there. So while Davy goes in, I'm going to scan the bottom side for any snake tails or any snakes hanging out. Sometimes we see boomslang, we see Cape Cobra. In the nest, no, I don't see anything in the nest, but you can hear the birds chittery, making lots of noise, little sociable weavers. I always find it amazing how each one of them actually knows exactly which apartment is theirs in that big cluster. Firstly, how do they get from where they go traveling back to the exact same tree, and then find the exact same nest chamber? You can actually see on the ground one of the main nest sections has actually fallen down. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so Davy's just at a slightly different angle, but that would have been on a branch, and over time, especially in heavy rains, just the sheer weight of the water on the grass makes it actually too heavy for the branch or the limb of the tree to hold it on anymore, and that will then collapse. Unfortunately, if there are any chicks or any eggs in the den, then that's just sort of in the nest that gets just abandoned, and sometimes they'll reuse that sort of grass from those nests, but they don't, you don't see it too often that they sort of recycle. That will then just get broken down. And these trees get a lot of the nutrients just from the dropping, from sheer sort of numbers of sociable weavers every single day landing, defecating. So it's nice, a nice source of fertilizer for the tree. And then if you go look right at the top of the nest, on the ones on the top there, Davy, that just because the sociable weavers are here doesn't mean that it isn't possible residential area for somebody else. Sometimes you'll have barn owls or spotted eagle owls that will nest on the top of that. But we're going to send you across to Lauren. She's got something interesting, and we'll move on from the dam so Mum can feed her chicks.
Now, for those of you who have been watching the past few nights, this exact mound is the mounds that we have had one of the most incredible of nature's spectacles. Look at it now. Nothing. There's a few ants crawling around, but last night was incredible. We had soldiers, workers, allies of the termites out. And I just want to show you one little part. Okay, yes. Last night here, and here, we had termites streaming out of here, sealed up. And that's the job of the workers. The workers, they escort the allies, and once they escort them and the last one's flown, they seal it up. They seal their doors, and it's sealed. I don't think you'll be able to see, but this one is still open, and I can see some soldiers here. But I don't think we're going to get a look. They're a little bit inside, and that's the only sign, apart from what I found in my hand. I'm going to bring it back to the vehicle and show you. This is the only evidence that Detective Lauren can find that there was a spectacle, one of nature's finest, last night. There we go, right on the dashboard. This is the wings of the alates. So what happens is they grow wings, they grow 4 wings that take such a long time to develop, and then they just discard them from here within a second. And apparently it's very difficult to see with the human eye. That moment where they discard them, you need a very special camera with a slow-mo setting, and that's it. That's the only evidence you can find that last night even happened. Incredible. So these alates, will they be successful? Will they not? They've dropped their wings. No more flight forever. They will never fly again. Will they be successful in making their own colony? Who knows? Did they go far? Did they stay near? We don't know. And I just thought this was really, really awesome to just show you guys, for those that were watching. It was incredible. It was such one of my favourite sightings so far of this stint. And I just thought we'd show you this glorious mound, and there's nothing to be seen anymore. And now we shall bumble. nocturnal in habit, so possibly tonight once that sun starts to go down, we might also see some more termites. Oh, all the wings are flying themselves now. Okay, so we're going to bumble towards quarantine and we're going to send you across to Pridelands with some elephants.
Pool party number 2. The boys are back in town. The elephants are still in Ndlovu Dam. They come and they go. Making the most of it. I wonder if elephants have holidays. Like take a break from the normal routine and just go and spend a week on Pridelands. Hit the dams, get some fresh green veggies. Because I mean, they can't all live on Pridelands all the time. They certainly have a home range that might include Pridelands, but they have a huge area that they normally would move along. The fact that they keep coming to this dam, they've surely got to go somewhere else eventually. Now there's so much food though, they don't actually have to go very far. The impala in the background just watching these elephants, just wishing that they could do the same, I'm sure. They have to be very wary. They want to come down and drink, but I think they're a bit nervous because of the potential for a crocodile or something. Oof, lots of splashing. Amazing sounds. I wish we knew more about elephants. I wish we knew what it meant when they do certain things. When they're doing this, for example, is there something that is actually happening different to what we can just see? When they put their trunk up like that, is that a sign? Can they understand? I wonder if they have a type of elephant sign language, where at a distance they can already see something about each other just by the way they move the trunk. Almost a tusk in the eye there. I'm always so terribly nervous when I watch them do this. It just looks like without really careful coordination, they could easily hurt each other. Like now, then, when they just stopped for a moment and their trunks reach out towards each other. What is that? What are they doing? What are they saying when they do that? What are they thinking? Well, these are play fighting, but imagine if they were putting all of their power into this. And as it is, that would easily flip our car over if they reversed into us and fought. It would cause us a lot of problems, even though they're putting in so little of their energy. Clouds are sort of dissipating a little bit now. A second wave might come through at some point of cooler weather, maybe. It's nice just to watch it though. Don't forget to send your questions in. If you have any, we can answer them live on the show. Just send them through. If you're any kids watching, at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv, at FC on Twitter and YouTube, #WildEarth. We'd love to hear them. And don't forget to join up to the Wild Earth Explorers, where you can get all the latest info, get chances to also ask questions and get to know all the other people that are Wild Earth Explorers, and even meet some of the guides at all the different places. I'd love to come and have you join us here at Pridelands, and you can watch these elephants right in front of you as well. Not just from the comfort of your home, but from the vehicle maybe. Don't forget. It's wildearth.tv/explorers if you'd like to learn more about the Explorers program. David, if tusk fencing was a sport in the Bush Olympics, these elephants on Pridelands would be the very best, because they are tusk fencing all the time. And they're all young as well. They've got a long and illustrious careers ahead of them, I'm sure. In the elephant world, yeah, they are definitely the leaders of the Tusk Olympics. The Tusk jousting. Oh, there's some vultures flying above us. I don't know if the angle would be okay for you, Seb, to look at those, but there's some vultures, which is something we don't see too often here at Pridelands. Not sticking around anyway. There's not a whole lot of open... Oh, maybe it's flying away. No, I think it's a bit lower there, Seb. Perhaps a bit too far for us. There's a few vultures flying over, circling above the dam. I wonder if they want to land somewhere around here. Vultures will have to often land and bathe in the water, especially after a good feed. And the fact that there's sun today after a few days of no sun means that it will be a good opportunity to go and have a bathe. They can sun dry themselves as well. Looks like white-backed vultures. Joy, elephants probably do care to a certain extent about the weather. I think not more than any other animal might care, or in fact probably a lot less than other animals would care, because they are so big. You know, cold and warm weather doesn't really affect them as quickly as it would affect others. So, you know, they're not too worried. They'll be out in the heavy rain. They'll be just going to the water to bathe if it gets super warm. They're probably in areas where there's, you know, a lot of open space, like the Kruger National Park. They could probably use their incredible sense of smell to figure out where there has been rain and maybe head to those areas for the hopes that the grass is greener and fresher. But I think all animals are quite stoic about it. There's not much they can do if it does start raining or getting cold. They just kind of get on with it. Now, these ones don't look like they have a care in the world, to be honest. I think the weather is the last thing on their mind. I think they care about weather in the sense that they know what it means for them. For example, yesterday we didn't see any elephants swimming, but today, first thing in the morning, there were elephants already swimming when we first got to the dam. So they certainly know that it's going to be hot. They can feel... They can predict the weather. They're much more in tune, all the animals are, much more in tune with the environment than we are as humans, because we largely remove ourselves from nature. We modify our environment if we need to. For example, we switch on the aircon if it gets too hot, or a fan, or we go indoors, that kind of stuff. Elephants can't do that. Other wild animals can't do that, so they have to learn to predict the weather and make the most of it. The simple life, where nothing at all is more important than just having a good swim. Uh-oh, here's an elephant who's making some tough decisions. He's trying to climb up the dam wall, but he seems to have done all right. He looked like he was going to get real awkward. He was on his knees for a moment. He's done very well. He's probably going to go over to the spot where they normally dust bathe. He's going straight over to that open, dusty area. Hopefully he will do so, but in the meantime we'll send you over to Eric, who's got a couple of beautiful kingfishers.
Of water birds on Ngala at the moment, and these two in particular are some of the most beautiful birds that, in my opinion, they both are malachite kingfishers, and there's two of them, which is really cool. So that one on the left hand side with that chestnut is facing us, obviously, and then down to the left below that clump of foam nest frogs, it's literally just flown as I was talking about it. Got a beautiful royal blue color, and they are really small. I mean, they must only be about 15 centimeters with that long bill, and this is a very seasonal pan, so they're only here when there's water around. But just look at the colors. I mean, they are so pretty, and they've got very cool patterning at the very top of the head. We might be a bit far away to see it, but those feathers on top of their head are actually very, very long. And if they are displaying, they'll erect it, and it looks like quite a long crest. But for most of the time, we actually see them, the feathers flat on their head, so it just looks like a normal head. But they are very pretty and a nice surprise to see on Ngala. We don't see them very often at all. This is that same area that we came to look for that lesser moorhen yesterday. Unfortunately, not having any luck with that little guy. Just scanning in the very dense reeds of this pan, and I'm sure this is why it's been so productive for birds, is because there's just lots of places for them to hide in these reeds and the long grass around it, whereas the two big water holes that we have in the east and the west of Ngala are quite exposed. And so it's sitting there and looking for any movement down on the ground, and I wonder if it's placed itself there specifically because of those foam nests. It would definitely target tadpoles. It would be a welcome meal for it. And being directly below or just next to those foam nests, at least, if there are tadpoles around, it would be a welcome meal for it. And see if you can see the other one I've just seen. So on that dead branch, back and left of the one is the second one that we saw a bit earlier, and it's giving us a side profile, again quite far away, so we won't really see the color very well. But they are gorgeous. And it looks just above the one that's closest to us. It seems like there was a weaver that started creating a nest that might have abandoned. And I find it so remarkable. I mean, it starts off as that little, they create this beautiful, neat nest where the female will be able to raise her chicken side. And I wonder why it abandoned. It's in a thorny tree over the water. Question? She's asking the difference between a malachite kingfisher and a pygmy kingfisher. So this one that we're looking at is a malachite, and they exclusively hang around water. They're an aquatic species, whereas a pygmy kingfisher it's not dependent on water, so you'll usually see it in dry woodlands. I'm actually just going to get my book up and show you the difference, because they can be confusing. They're very, very similar in size. and the color is also quite similar too. There we go. I've got it out. Let me show you BK. Is this okay from here? So we've got three different species that look very similar. So this is the malachite kingfisher over here, and this is the crest that I was talking about a bit earlier on, which we don't often see erected. So it's a very, very cool feature of it. And then this is the pygmy kingfisher over here. So a pygmy kingfisher is a migrant. We only see it in the summertime, and they've got lots of purple around the side of the face. So they do look similar, especially the adults. But, I mean, you find them in very different habitats. So, cut kingfisher, you can sometimes confuse with. Again, this one is quite on nice flowing water, whereas malachite kingfishers enjoy these large water bodies. And then it's just got quite a lot of white over it and very blue moustachial stripes down there, whereas the juvenile malachite kingfisher doesn't have it. That's the different one. I mean, we haven't really seen pygmy kingfishers here. But cool thing. It's a nice question. Thank you for asking. We are going to leave this waterhole unless we see that moorhen within a few minutes.
So we have abandoned our search for cheetah this morning. They seem to have found the shadier parts of the reserve. And we weren't able to find any signs of them, but luckily we came across some lions that have come really nicely out into the open area. As you can see, they've found a way of keeping cool this afternoon. There's literally one patch of shade in this section, and they're lying quite comfortably in it. You can see on the right there's that one lioness with her head up, and 4 of her cubs all around her. And off to the left there's another lioness, and just behind her is the 5th cub. So this is our mountain pride. It's one of our favorite prides to come look for in the south of the reserve. You can see they're all very, very sleepy. It's quite interesting that the lioness has actually got her head up, because it's starting to become really hot. At least they're keeping cool in the shade there. But normally what you see is lions lying flat out, just like the rest of them. But pretty much for the entire time we've been here, she's got her head up. I wonder if she's a little bit hungry and is maybe just keeping a lookout for anything that might walk past. Lions are quite opportunistic hunters, and certainly if something were to stroll past, you might take the opportunity. Unfortunately for them, they've got next to no cover to hide themselves, unless something were to maybe walk along that top ridge and the slope of the land might hide them. That could be their opportunity that they would have to take. Other than that, they're pretty out in the open, very exposed, very easy for anything to spot them. It's always great when these lions come to this area. You can see it's like a big open quarry. But we always worry a little bit when they come here, because there is a chance they go into the mountain range behind them and then they disappear there for a few days. We've actually had it happen for about a week where we couldn't find this pride, and the theory was that they actually went right out into that open mountain range there, managed to make a kill or two, and then stayed there for a week. Just got another vehicle coming in, that's why they're reacting there. Getting a really nice view. Look at the attention they're getting. Oh, that one at the back is lying so comfortably. Oh, it almost rolled all the way down. So what's quite interesting as well is the lioness in the middle. I mean, it's difficult to tell from this far, but as far as I can tell, she seems to be the younger lioness of the two. So, as I've said before, there's 5 cubs and 2 females. So one of the lionesses had 2 cubs and the other had 3 cubs. We're not sure which, because we found the entire grouping together the one morning. So they had their cubs either on the same day or within a few days of each other. And that is typical of lions. You know, they will try and synchronize their birthing schedules, or try and have cubs at the same time, just so they can look after them together. You know, it's a very strategic move, because especially cubs at this age, these ones are going to start getting really curious about hunting and are going to find it difficult to hold back and stay hidden while the mothers do the hunting. So they often ruin hunts by trying to assist, but they haven't quite mastered their techniques. So they end up stalking, or their idea of stalking more is walking very slowly with their shoulders hunched, and of course giving the position away. So it's quite interesting, because she is the younger lioness of the two and actually does less of the mothering. She's more the huntress of this pride. So what we are going to do is we are going to leave these lions to enjoy their afternoon nap, and we're going to send you to another live location.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at and beyond Pinde Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle, and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
What fascinates me most about the animal circle of life is the intricacies between the large and the very, very small. I mean, it's very easy to go out there and find the large. Once you found the large, the cascading effects down to the small absolutely fascinates me. Alertness and situation awareness is by far the #1 aspect for protecting ourselves out on safari.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to and beyond Pinde Private Game Reserve. As you can see, we've got a beautiful hot afternoon around us with quite a breeze in the air. We've returned to this area that we were this morning in search of that mother cheetah with her cub, hoping to find them sometime this afternoon. So far we have had no signs, but what we're thinking of doing is probably looking around the shaded areas,